Whoa, whoa. What's going on, Restream? That's a good way to start up the year by going crazy. Anyway, Happy New Year, gamers, and welcome back to the first episode of GQAzndood Gaming Academy podcast for 2025. Happy New Year. I hope you had a great 2024, had a good rest on your holiday, and now you're back at the Academy, classes in session, and we got a great great year for you guys upcoming here. Got a lot of good stuff coming up, a lot of new stuff coming up, a lot of changes, and of course, resolutions, just like every year, especially this year in gaming. So, if it's your first time here, awesome, welcome. I am your host, GQAzndood, and I'm so excited to kick in off another year in gaming, laughter and deep dives into the world that we love, which is gaming. Tonight, we're reflecting on the holiday season, what went down, what we played, and what surprised us. Plus, it's time to talk New Year's resolution, from gaming goals to personal level ups. We got plenty to share here, and I'm not alone. I got backup, and I got the faculty here with us today. And of course, we're looking ahead to what 2025 has in store for all of us gamers out there. New releases, trends, and the stuff that we can't wait to get our hands on, like that new Virtua Fighter game that I saw. So grab your controllers, settle in, and let's ring in the new year with some awesome discussions. And also, here's a fantastic year to you guys ahead of us and to the world of gaming. So let's get started and start introducing all the peeps that we have tonight. Of course, if you guys haven't been to the show or haven't, it's your first time here, I do this with two other awesome dudes here that I, probably can't do this podcast running effectively without. But first of all, I want to introduce you to these guys. The first one here, I played video games with him at the Tilt Arcade in our local mall here in Bellingham, and he's ran that arcade for a long time. We even ran tournaments at that arcade. And he's also participated in that as well. And that's my dude, my man in the street, the man with the plan, Blazing Ace Nelson. What up? Happy New Year, dude.
Happy New Year, boss. And same to everybody that's watching. Happy 2025. We've got plenty to look forward to this year. And I'm just as hyped, not just to experience everything, but to share it with y'all. Welcome back to class, everybody.
Absolutely, man. And it's like one of those things where I try to celebrate gratitude, right? And I was thinking to myself while I was on vacation, because we were out, at least I was out for at least 3 weeks, that I am lucky to be alive right now in this time of, space and time and gaming, where I saw one of the games be remade to a more updated kind of like level of quality. And that, I'm talking about Final Fantasy Remake, among the other remakes that have been out there, right? So I'm just like kind of grateful that I'm able to exist in this timeline, so and another reason that I'm grateful for that who exists in this timeline is my other faculty member here, the dude, the man in his ivory tower. And I say, like I said, this guy is I've worked with him. We've been in the trenches together on many Black Fridays, and then kind of serve the community when it comes to video game rapport and kind of just delivering games that most gamers don't seem to find outside the mainstream. And he's done a really good job with that, and he's very educated in the gaming world, and I'm always welcome and grateful to have him here. And this is my dude, the Tragically Elite, kind of like an emo band, right?
An emo band. I don't know about that. No, not that bad, man. That's it was a tagline from a webcomic I followed for a long time. Kind of got in the ground level of in terms of fandom. Notorious now, but just something that stuck. It was a handle they had on so many different consoles. So happy to be here. Happy New Year to everyone. To the students who always get in touch with me every year that I get to reconnect with at this time. My friends at college I used to make, Akemashite Meirito. Happy New Year in Japanese. Always reminded that every year it rolls around. I'm like, oh yeah, that's the word for it. That's the saying. Cool. Glad I remember something.
Awesome, man. Well, good to have you guys both here. I know I missed you guys. It's been like 2 to 3 weeks without kind of congregating together, talk about video games, and it's been too long. So yeah. I'm hyped for what's to come, and I saw the cheat sheet for tonight, and I'm excited to get things going. So as always, you guys, anything I guess you want to share before we kind of kick things off?
Well, everything I could think of that I want to share, that's gonna be stuff that's coming up later, man. Like,
Yeah, same here. I mean, the stuff we were talking about and what we were planning on talking about, I think covers everything that I need to say. Let's get into it.
Okay, fantastic. But with that said, let's get into this week in gaming history. You gotta love that Contra intro, right?
heck
So
yeah.
yeah. So one of my goals this year is to provide you, the audience, and the class here, more sound bits as much as possible. So if you guys got something that you guys prefer or like and want to hear, hey, I'll find it and I'll put it on here. So
Gotta break up those awesome docile tones.
well, yeah, for sure. Especially if you're only listening to what do you call this show, not watching it. All right, so this with this week in gaming history, if it's first time here, since it is the first class of the year, we talk about games that have come out and news of games that have come out from this week, all the years back. So starting with January 5th, which is was that 2 days ago? So we try to do Sundays, right? Sunday to Saturday. All right, so I got my list here. I know you guys see on the screen Bayonetta, which I don't know why the caption's missing, but there it is. Right, came out in 2010, among other games as well. So apparently January 5th was the day of Sonic for a lot of games. So for example, Sonic Battle came out on the GBA in 2004. Sonic Heroes came out on the GameCube in 2004. Bayonetta came out on the PS3 and 360, 2010. Also, the wonderful Darksiders game, which is a great game, came out the same year. Fable 2 Game of the Year Edition came out in 2010 as well for the 360. And I wanted to sneak this in there because I feel like maybe some of our audience and school students would know this game because it kind of flew in under the radar, which was Amplitude on the PS4 back in 2016.
It didn't fly under the radar for me.
I knew you would
I had the OG. I had the OG. I remember the cover art for that had like Blink 182 in pink on it. Like it was an era. It was an era in that OG release.
Actually, I can't believe I didn't actually highlight Bayonetta on the cheat sheet because
Oh yeah, is that your jam?
Well, not only was it my jam, but I remember actually coming into the GameStop and like I had pre-ordered Bayonetta. You know, I saw some footage of it. I pre-ordered it. I'm like, that looks hype as hell. And of course, this is me coming off of actually having a lot of time to sit down and play Bullet Witch back when it first came out. So I'm like, okay, like Bayonetta is a different game, but it still has a similar vibe for me. So I figured I'd pick it up. But I went in, I got the game, got a freaking calendar that came with it.
Was that a pre-order bonus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Remember when we got stuff for free when we pre-ordered games?
Right.
Like physical stuff?
Oh, I mean, you can still get it, but it's called deluxe editions.
Oh,
come with the disc.
Oof. Oof. Yeah, I think my personal experience with Bayo was when I first saw they were making another like Devil May Cry type game, action game. And I was like, oh cool, like like female Dante, right? That's kind of how I saw that, because like it's very stylish and like just fast paced, action packed. But to have it made by Sega, I was like, at the time I was like, what's Sega making these days? So I wasn't really sold on it yet until I saw the gameplay, and I was like, oh, okay, I have to play this.
So you saw the camera angles.
Oddly enough, I didn't like really care too much about that aspect of Bayonetta, right?
Nice save.
Nice, right? But I just thought like it was really interesting that what do you call this? I think Kami at the time said if Dante had 3 arms, we would give him 3 guns. Right, and so Bayonetta has 4 limbs, and she got four guns.
Yeah,
so
it makes sense.
So I thought that was like, wow, he's a man of his word. Like he made it happen in some way or form. So
yeah,
interesting.
My little comment about that, like someone on the outside looking in who maybe hadn't played those games. I remember when it came out, like everyone was making comments about the trailers and stuff. I'm like, what are these camera angles? Like a bodysuit made out of her own hair. What the hell is this game? But you go in and play it, and it's actually damn fun.
Yeah, no, it's super cool, and there's a lot of like weird little design kind of aspects to Bayonetta. For example, like every main character in the game has some sort of eyewear, right? That they kind of made that a thing with Kamiya's games. So if you go back to it and play, you're going to look at every character if they have to have eyewear of some sort, because that's the way it works.
Has there been any word on a fourth?
Well, I don't think so. Not sure. Maybe. Doesn't Bayonetta belong to Nintendo? Like the franchise, at least, right? So that's gonna be a hard one because Sega makes the game, but Bayonetta itself like is a Nintendo IP now, I think.
Yeah, Sega was publishing it because Bayonetta, like if I remember right, Bayonetta was part of the partnership between Sega and Platinum.
Okay, yeah, and I know in 3, like they kind of hinted that like there could be a variety of Bayonettas all over the world because they're doing the multiverse thing with it, right? So it anything can happen at this point, but I suggest you guys should play Bayonetta, even one and 2. Like you don't even have to play 3 to enjoy it, the Bayonetta story and kind of like it's like world. But that's, there's a lot of games to play, but I suggest doing Bayonetta 1 and 2 at least.
From what I'm seeing, it doesn't look like Nintendo owns it, but they certainly published it later on when Sega wasn't able to self-publish. It kind of depends more on who owns Platinum.
Okay.
Because Platinum's still the main dev for that.
And I don't think anybody owns Platinum, right?
Right, but most of the developers that were at Platinum at the time, or I think like a good number of the original developers have basically taken off to do their own thing now. I mean, I'm sure this is probably something that's going to come up, but Clover's studio, the cats that are back at Capcom working on Okami 2 at this point, most of them are ex-Platinum.
Yeah, and that's very common. I'm sorry, go ahead, Nick.
No. I was gonna get a little off topic. One of my favorite steelbooks is that 2-pack they did with Vanquish and Bayonetta.
Oh,
it's like embossed.
That was a really good combination. I feel like Platinum should just like start. You know how like some games have like the $20 value Platinum hits. I feel like Platinum should just like roll with that with their own re-releases, Platinum hits. Yeah, so I think that'd be super fun. And then the other thing here was Darksiders. That was a game where the art captivated me as well, and I was just like, wow, this game has really cool art. I really like the character, and I'm gonna give it a shot. Like I knew nothing about it, played it, and I was like, wow, I'm playing like Ocarina of Time.
To me it was like God of War. It was that combat.
Was it?
Yeah, okay. Like the original God of War trilogy, not the newer stuff that you've seen.
Okay.
It was more about that hack and slash kind of combo-ish, like chain bladey kind of thing. It just happened to be set with like the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. That was like the big sell.
Super cool.
I remember because it was such a big jump over to Darksiders 2, which is more like RPG hack and slash, because you had like talent trees and points basically to mess around with that you didn't have in the first game.
Gotcha. Yeah, and the reason why I say Legend of Zelda, because Homie War had a hook shot. That's all I'm saying. And I was like, wow, this is Zelda. Apparently all it takes is a hook shot, and then it's a Zelda game. So
pretty much.
All right. Anything else on this list, guys? You gonna want to chat about?
Only that before we hop to the next day, Fable 2, I did not like when it first came out. I was a big fan of the original. It's something that I talked to a lot of people about, a lot of my friends. When Fable 2 first launched, I was so disappointed. I didn't like it. I ended up going back and replaying it when it had its Platinum Hits release. Speaking of Platinum Hits, because it had all the DLC in it and a bunch of fixes. I loved that version of the game. So it took me a long time to get into Fable 2, which was super, super surprising to me because I thought I was going to love it.
See, that's interesting because like it's kind of like Cyberpunk, right? When it first came out, it was kind of jank, and then it came out released again later as a fuller package, and it was better. And so I feel like, it's not Cyberpunk's not the first to do that. So and actually I didn't know that much about Fable 2. So I'm glad that you shared that with us, because I often, at the store, I'd just say, oh, you like Fable 1, you like Fable 2. So hearing that is just like, oh, wow, I was wrong.
It was just more so for me the changes that happened.
Okay.
I know that in the first game with like if you played the original series, for anyone who's listening, like feel free to, as always, we didn't say it to start it off, but this is very much about a communication with us. Like if you have anything to comments about these games that you loved as well, let us know. We're reading the comments the entire time. It's super entertaining for us. But with the original Fable, with the character creation and the art style, you kind of like you got into the look of your character. You didn't have a lot of chances to like change the way they look, except if you chose evil or good, and your face would change, right?
Yeah.
In the second game, I just remember if you ended up doing a lot of melee attacks, you got more like beefy, like your body completely changed. There was some of that in the first game, but like it went way overboard in the second game. And when I first played it, I created this character and I did like a male wizard and then a non-male warrior, and the warrior was just like its eyes were like cross-eyed and like crooked. I was so taken out of it that I just hated it. And I don't know why. I just it broke some kind of immersion somewhere and I didn't like it. Like I said, bought it later on with all the fixes and I enjoyed it. It wasn't as broken as Cyberpunk, but it was enough to like take me out of a series that I loved.
Can you imagine, like, if your characters look like, I'm not talking about just armor, right? But if your characters looked like as their level, if you're level 100 and you're like shredded and just jacked because you're a fighter, right? And then but you're one of those guys that do all the side quests before you do the main story. Can you imagine? Can you imagine looking like your character looking like that on level 2, like, on your level 2 quest? So kind of wild.
It's that meme all over again. It's just like I do a push-up every time I do a side quest, and the guy's like, Jesus Christ. It's like
show up looking like freaking Popeye, and it's like, oh, you did all the side quests, didn't you?
All right, so that is not Adventure Lolo. What is happening here, Slide? That is
whoops.
Yeah,
Adventures of Lolo with
that's so
Hayabusa.
weird.
Perfect.
So yeah, if you this week in gaming history is Adventures of Lolo 2 for the Nintendo in 1990, and back in Japan. Little light this day, actually. I only saw like 3 games, and I only have 2 on this list. And the other game is Digimon World 4 on the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox in 2005. So that's a big jump to 15 years, both in Japan. So let me find this Adventure Lolo image. I'm pretty sure I did this, but let me check anyway.
I mean, I checked the 6th as well, and it was a lot of like later releases, a lot of mobile titles. So January 6th, not popular for game releases.
Yeah, and it's really, I mean, it's very common, right? It's a Monday, because keep in mind, back then, we only had, like, Tuesdays?
It's not a Monday every year.
No, I mean, like, they release on certain days, right? So it's not everything's going to be a banger.
Except
all right,
for
Lolo,
Adventures of Lolo too.
I gotta tell you, the lore Adventures of Lolo 2 is quite deep. So I remember playing this on Nintendo, the first one, and I was always like, okay, I'm like a blue Kirby, right? But instead of like absorbing creatures, I'm just like, it's like half Kirby, half like Bomberman is kind of how I felt the game was. And so, and that's how I usually compared my games back then. I compare them with other games, and I use that skill back at Reset at the store, where I talked about on stream a couple days ago that one guy came in and he said that he loved Gears of War, and I was like, okay, what other games do you play? He's like, oh, I love third person shooters. So I said, have you ever heard of binary domain? And he's like, what is that? So I said, hey, here you go. Check it out. Get it used. Try it. And dude, homie came back like a few days later, was like, dude, that's like the coolest game I've ever played, better than Gears. And I was like, oh, how come you never heard about it? Because I don't know, because there was no advertisement about it. So it's like, it's essential that you have game advisors that play games outside of the mainstream to kind of introduce you to other stuff. Because that guy would have never known what binary domain was, because he wasn't like too extreme of a gamer, but he wanted to play other games outside of the mainstream, right? So
yeah,
I feel like
it's tough to be like an advisor in that role nowadays with the amount of information we have going around and the multiple platforms now that all this information and trailers are coming out on. And let's be honest, we've talked about this before. It might come up a little bit later with some of the topics we're going to talk about, but with the way that AAA gaming and game development's going, we're seeing less of those kind of titles, those kind of like second tier, kind of like offshoots or inspired by games. You don't get that anymore. You have like AAA releases, and then you have like a live service release, and then you have mobile titles or just like a platform game here or there. Like we're starting to see this weird like striation of like you're only having certain kinds. It doesn't feel like we have as many of those kind of games.
There's not so much of a middle market, as it were, anymore. You know, the more, I guess, AA titles as opposed to AAA.
Middle class gaming has been erased. It's only the 1% AAA. Actually, AAA is probably like 99% now, if anything. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, not a lot on that day. But let's move on to this one. If you want to read it off, Nick, I'll go ahead and find the right image here for the 7th. It's
for
your
the
game
7th.
too. Yeah. It's not Doom. That was last time.
Are you sure it's not Doom?
No, it could be.
I mean, I can't even tell right now. Right now, it says 17 Res over my face.
There you go, right there.
On the overlay. So Res, the PS2 in 2002 in Japan released. I loved the look of this game when it came out, which is fantastic. Really cool. Really one of those esoteric kind of titles. The 7th also had a couple other bangers, though. Initial D came out on the PSX in Japan in 1999. The Next Tetris came out on PSX in 1999. I thought right before we were going to say that game, I was like, oh, they lost this chance to say, like, they could have just called it the Nextris. And it I almost stumbled trying to say it in my own way. So that's probably why they didn't decide to do that. Bad idea. Crash Bandicoot 2 Entranced for the GBA, released in 2003. And this day in gaming history, 2008, near and dear to my heart, EA acquired VG Holding Corp. I don't know if you know what that means, but a couple particular development houses were then under the umbrella of EA. Ace, do you know what those two are?
Those two being BioWare and Pandemic Studios.
Some big names that have forever changed their trajectory after EA got a hold of them. So that happened on January 7th in 2008. Mark it on your calendars. A black day.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. I was wondering what Pandemic was. Yeah, but they're the ones that made Mercenaries.
Oh yeah,
awesome. Great underrated game that a lot of, I think when it was released, the big rush of open world games was like the thing to play, and Mercenaries kind of got overshadowed by a lot of mainstream games, and we try to push that at the store because we want people to expand their gaming repertoire, right? So with Res, like, do you think, I always remember Res to be like one of those games where music is the weapon, right? Music is the key to the game. Was there one before this? Would Tempest 3000 count for Res? Because they have some similarities.
Kind of, yeah. I could see that. You're not far from it. I mean, it's one of those fast action kind of shooters with a bunch of crazy things and polygonal things all over your screen.
Yeah.
So you're not wrong. I do remember that this game, one of the reasons that it was so interesting, it had one of those like crazy like descriptions for it too, of like, what is the lore of what's happening in Res right now. I pulled it up on the screen, but Res is a fast action shooter that takes you deep into the world's computer network. This thing was ahead of its time. The quote-unquote Project K network has recently been upgraded to handle the rapid expansion of the information age in the core, known as Eden, holds the most advanced artificial intelligence the world has ever seen. It was ChatGPT. Unfortunately, Eden cannot handle the ability to create her own thoughts and buckles under the pressure of an existential breakdown. She is lost deep inside the system, and you're the only one that can bring her back online, saving the world from utter chaos.
Wow. That's a plot right there.
Right.
But then you get in there and you're like, what am I playing?
I'm about ready to download this game up myself. I haven't played yet.
In the mighty words of James, back in 2015 to 2018, that's a video game ass video game. that's what I said back then all the time. Wow. Okay, I didn't know that the Res lore was deep like that.
Yeah, super.
You know what? Like, I'm sold. I might have to sit down and play that.
Honestly, it's still cool to this day. I remember really liking the music too, because I listened to a lot of different kind of music that has that kind of like EDM feel to it. But you're like a hacker, you're going to like this dream like cyber world kind of thing. It's fun.
I expect many Vacha Vidya videos on Rez, because he does a deep dive on Dark Souls games, but he didn't know about Rez, so I expect a lot of videos about that from him. So all right, here. So that is not Super Contra on the screen. So
I'm having a lot of trouble in the new year with their content.
That is the mighty PSP. No, I got this all done. I don't know what happened here. It's just like it like glitched on us or something. But if you guys were listening to the intro, that was stage 1 of Super Contra, and I try to throw in some Easter eggs in our podcast here of music that's of games that we'll be talking about. So if you guys can figure out the songs before they even like hit, it's super fun to figure it out. But yeah, Super Contra came out for the arcade in 1988 in Japan, and then oddly enough, Operation C came out on the Game Boy in 1991 in Japan. It's like, hey, you want Contra at home? Here it is in monochrome.
There you go.
So that rhymed. That's odd. Another great game that I was personally a big fan of, and it was extremely hard to find at the rental store because it was always out, was Aliens vs. Predator on the Super Nintendo back in 1993 in Japan. And then as we go through along the timeline here, Alundra came out into PlayStation in 1998. The Seven Samurai 20XX on the PS2 in 2004 in Japan. The ever so famous Harvey Birdman Attorney at Law on the PS2, PSP, and Wii in 2008. By the way, made by Capcom, no less, which is weird. Yep. And another game that I thought was underrated, which was super cool, was Kingdom Under Fire Circle of Doom on the 360 in 2008. And I'm going to say Punch Club was one of my hits in 2024 as games that came out and I played, which came out in 2016. Super fun, like almost like a cookie clicker type game, but you guys should check it out. It's only like $3. And the last game on his list, I'll leave it to Ace because he knows what rules the world, and that is Anarchy Reigns on the PS3
yes.
360. So
happy anniversary to one of the I would say it's definitely one of the most underrated beat 'em ups, especially one of the most underrated platinum games. Like, look, if there is remember when we were talking about, let's go back maybe 15, 20 minutes when we were talking about, platinum hits. Here is an idea for Platinum and Sega to print money. Mad World Collection. Mad World, Anarchy Reigns. Both games, one package, ship it, print it.
I mean, they already have it, right? Kind of like what they did with Vanquish and Bayonetta, right? Mm-hmm. So, what did they call that collection something? Like, was it just anniversary, right?
No, that literally says in the steelbook. It says Bayonetta slash. It just
Vanquish?
has both games on the side bundle collection.
Oh, okay, that's lame. They should have said Platinum Hits on there or Platinum Collection.
Honestly, Platinum Hits might be something that's copyrighted.
Lame. Lame.
That's a possibility.
What's next? They're gonna copyright Candy.
I'd say this time next year we just have a stream where we just call Platinum Hits January because a lot of Platinum games happen to be on this list.
Oh,
Ace, I completely forgot about this cover art. What is this character design?
Okay,
what are these outfits?
Which game are you referring to?
Anarchy Reigns.
Oh, right. Man, Ace is the pro with that. I saw him streaming that, and that game is wild. The soundtrack is incredible in that game.
Absolutely. Oh. Like, okay, here I'm gonna make a bold statement here.
Hot take.
But when you really think about it, it makes sense. Anarchy Reigns is like the Killer Instinct of beat 'em ups.
Oh, whoa!
Available for your home
Easy.
in 1995.
Oh my God.
Easy, buddy. Easy.
But no, think about it. Really think about it. Like, Killer Instinct took a lot of inspiration from, games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, obviously. But you take a look at Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, they've got their own specific style. Killer Instinct was like a fusion of both of those. It's very animated, but still incorporated a lot of hyper realism just in the 3D rendering that Rareware used when they were developing it. And then, of course, there's the fact that it has this very sort of hip hop, street, this very, it's a sort of hip hop punk kind of style, like it's really counterculture compared to what it was taking inspiration from. And then on top of that, another thing that Anarchy Reigns shares with Killer Instinct is, of course, the incredible and frankly iconic soundtrack.
Yeah, man, I agree
Like
with that.
That is a game where music definitely helped to define the characters, especially like, Sound the Alarm, the track that plays when you're fighting as, I think that's actually, yeah, that's actually Leo's theme when you're fighting against him as Jack.
Yeah, no, it's. I remember I didn't really think much of Anarchy Reigns when I first played it on the PS3, but like I think I was like, it was one of those, like, it wasn't full price. I think it was like $39.99 when it first came out, and it was like so different than what other games were being released at the time, and it was all good. It was all good, and believe it or not, Bayonetta is a secret character in that game. People forget that like that game had a multiplayer mode, and you could play as Bayonetta in that multiplayer mode. So super cool. But yeah, anything else on this list here that you guys want to talk about, like Harvey Birdman or anything like that?
No, I'm excited to see what else we have for the rest of the week. There's more games. This is another back end week.
Like Tecmo Bowl, that's right. But instead of Tecmo Bowl, it's in reality it is Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, which came out.
Yeah, pretty much
basically the same game.
Yeah.
Basically Tecmo Bowl. There it is. 1.9 came out. Fatal Fury on the mobile in 2007, and I was trying to find screenshots for this, Ace, for you, but I was unsuccessful. And for those who watched the show, The Shield, the game came out on the PS2 in 2007. I watched the show and I didn't know that there was a PS2 game, so I wanted to add that on there. A little weird arcade classic on the 360 called Omega 5 in 2008, and Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep on the PSP in 2010 in Japan. Before we get to that little bit piece of news there, Omega 5 is actually a side-scroller shoot 'em up, which kind of reminded me of Macross, and I don't think anybody played this game, like, because it was an Xbox Live arcade title. Right, but take a look at it if you can. If you're able to still get it, I love shmups, and check it out. But also
going back to Anarchy Reigns, just really quickly, like another thing that actually made the game so unique was, not just the fact that you could pick like one of the two main pro tags, with Jack and Leo, but the fact that you played through their separate campaigns, and then it unlocks like a third campaign which ties both of their stories together, that ties Black Side and White Side together.
Yeah, I think that path should be taken more often, just because it's like, it's a good way to storytell and kind of combine the game together, right?
It is. So, I mean, they did something. They actually did something pretty close to that with Scarlet Nexus.
Oh yeah, I haven't played it yet, so I really don't know how much to contribute to that.
Yeah. Chop, he absolutely loves Anarchy Reigns. He also loves a lot of other games too. Don't get him started on anything Dynasty Warriors, or we will be here
That's
a while.
Next week.
That's next week. I'm sure. Yeah, we didn't have one
in
on
10 days.
Release.
We won't be hearing from Ace. All right, he's just gonna be just locked in his room, right?
Look, if y'all don't see me here at the Academy in a couple weeks, you'll know it's because I pursued Origins and slammed my ass into oblivion.
I'm just gonna have an animated GIF of you on your screen there for you while you're on the next show, since you're not going to be around playing. So back in 2006, 2K acquires Irrational Games, which is now Ghost Story, aka Ken Levine and BioShock creators. 2K, here's the thing, right? Everybody talks about Rockstar, but isn't 2K really the ones that own Rockstar?
I think so.
2K is the publisher. Take-Two Interactive.
Take-Two, okay.
Yeah, Take-Two Interactive is the publisher, so they're the ones who are acquiring all this talent and all these things. So in 2006, like you said, that was 2K buying Irrational, who, I mean, what more needs to be said? They started off with System Shock 2, but everyone kind of knows the world as Ken Levine and Bioshock. Bioshock is really
Yeah.
what kind of set the world on fire for them. Bioshock, Bioshock 2, Bioshock Infinite.
Right.
Eventually, Irrational was shut down, and then the original creator, Ken Levine, and a couple other people, if I remember right, their art director broke off to do Ghost Story, and that's what they're doing now, and they're trying to move away from that. But it was kind of that thing, like under 2K, it's like, okay, Bioshock sold well, keep making Bioshock, and they're like, okay, but we want to do more, we want to do something different. It's
Yeah.
like you said, Take Two, they're the ones pushing forward those kind of things. I mean, for a while there, I think Take Two, didn't they own the rights to like a lot of the Lego publishing as well? Or is that TT Games? That might be TT Games. I could get confused with all the T's.
Well, I know they did also Borderlands, right? Isn't that
No, Take Two's the publisher because that's Gearbox, the developer.
Got it. Yeah, so they own a lot of these. So they publish a lot of these games, so they have a lot of under their belt. Not making,
they
but publishing.
really do. They're one of the big ones too. I'll have to I'll grab some and throw it up on the Discord sometime so you can share. But if you ever see the breakdown of the industry as a whole, it's like a pie graph, and they show like where the major like owners are, like Tencent or Embracer Group, and you
that'd
see
be
all the
interesting.
different talent and all the different developers that are under just that one pie like corner. So Embracer owns a massive amount of the market. So when people are getting upset about like, oh man, Embracer's like buying up all this talent and shutting down things, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, look at everything that's under them. It's kind of scary to think, especially in years of layoffs and that kind of thing too.
Yeah,
that's a rabbit hole that is
Yeah,
that goes
it's
into
who
like
owns what rabbit hole.
Yeah.
It gets crazy.
Yeah, it gets crazy. Speaking of getting crazy, this is the wrong one. Never mind.
Speaking of crazy, let's just see what pops up when we try to type something else.
Right?
That is the wrong one. So I actually wanted
This
to.
is the roulette. This is the roulette section.
I wanted to chat about this one specifically because technically the game that you see on the screen on 110 on MSX in 1985 was Yi Kung Fu, which is technically the first fighting game ever made in video game history.
Look at that art.
Yeah, look at the villains here. I can see the pro tag, right? And what is the bald buff dudes like scenario here?
I think
what is the lore?
But he just looks like a bald buff baby.
Look at people in the world enjoying it, no AI, not on their phones. Look what they come up with.
That's right. This is the original concept right here, right? The progenitor of fighting games. To think Killer Instinct came from this.
I mean, yeah.
That is true. My experience with Yi Kung Fu wasn't actually in the arcade. It was actually on the Nintendo where they had, and I believe this is the Famicom cart art. So I wanted to kind of show that over here as well. Had two buttons, punch, kick, and then jump was just like up on the D-pad. And that was the concept. And if you hit something, you hit something. There was no special moves or anything like that. But it was literally the first fighting game, like 1v1, and there was more movement. I would probably consider it more as an arena fighter at the time, but it was on a 2D plane. But when you jump, you did like a virtual fighter jump, like all the way up. So
one of them jumps.
Yeah, one of them jumps for sure. Speaking of jumps, another game that you should jump on to play is Mercenaries Playground of Destruction. Like I said last time.
We just talking about Mercenaries?
Exactly, yeah. It all links together. PS2, Xbox in 2005. The Legend of Zelda Diminished Cap on a GBA in 2005 as well. The Castlevania Double Pack on the GBA in 2006, Aria and Dissonance. Super rare cartridge, by the way, so good luck looking for that. Mega Man X Collection on the GameCube and PS2 in 2006. Great collection. Wild Arms 4 on the PS2 in 2006, and also in 2008, Turtle Rock Studios acquired by Valve. So that seems to be a big one.
Huge one for us too, as our history with Left 4 Dead 2.
Yeah, and I think there was a little bit of tease there. I think I want to chat with Nick about a little bit later here about that. Also, does that say 1932?
It does, my friend.
Okay. Bally Entertainment Corporation is founded, famous for their pinball machines and also acquiring Midway and the Astrocade console. Funny enough, I think I saw the Bally building in North Chicago when I was a kid, and I never knew what it was because there was two types of Bally's. There was Bally Entertainment and also Bally, like the gym. Yeah, the gym. Man, my man knows what the Bally gym. So I wasn't sure if that big tower was a big gym or that was actually the corporation over there. So
it was the corporation. So it was founded in 1932 in Chicago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gangsters.
So it was part of a different manufacturing thing, but a lot of us, especially us who worked in the local retro stores locally, like Reset or Another Castle for me, shout out to them. A lot of pinball machines would come through our store, and half the business was an arcade. So we get to see a lot of like the old school Bally stuff. You get to see a lot of Williams nowadays, which Bally sold their pinballs off to Williams. So kind of just a cool thing because they've been kind of intrinsically tied to the gaming space for a very long time. So it's worth shouting out that many years ago, they were founded, and then look what they are now.
And I mean, even I'll put it to you this way, even before I started, even playing stuff like, the Combat Tribes or Galaga, or even before I started playing any arcade games, I was basically just hooked on pinball. And
my man brought out Combat Tribes.
Like Bally, Williams, and Midway were, the earliest part of my childhood before even video gaming. It was pinball.
It's true. Bally Midway was on a lot of marquees and a lot of like demo reels of arcade machines. Mortal Kombat, Smash TV had Bally Midway, Total Carnage. Pretty much any LJN games that came out on the Nintendo or Acclaim games were published or made by Bally Midway at the time in the arcade, right? And then they were ported over to the Nintendo with LJN and Acclaim. So it's I put those two and two together all the time, and it's like I know the logo, right? It's like the W for Williams, right?
Yep.
And so it's one of those things that just show up on arcade marquees. And I was looking over here, and I just literally saw this game on my collection. So Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law. I didn't know I had a copy of this, so this is cool.
Yeah, I sent a picture in our Discord chat of the Astrocade, but look at that controller. It is like a gun hilt with a trigger and a dial at the top.
Yeah, they did Terminator 2, Revolution X. Dude, those were the great games, man. I think they, like, if there was a documentary about them, I'd totally watch it because I felt like living in Chicago and I saw the building that I was, a part of that. So super cool.
I'm sure they do have a documentary of some kind for Bally.
Oh, I'm sure. Very I'm sure they do. If you guys know of it and you guys are familiar, put it in chat. I'm gonna save it and watch it later. And Ace, I think you had saw your eyes lit up when I said Wild Arms 4. So go ahead.
Yeah. Now Wild Arms 4 was definitely Wild Arms 4 was something of a departure from a lot of the vibe that was established over the first three games, because the first three Wild Arms games leaned very heavily into the Sergio Leone style spaghetti western influence, but then Wild Arms 4 took it a little bit more futuristic. So it went from spaghetti western to more like anime sci-fi western, like Cowboy Bebop,
anime sci-fi.
And honestly, the game itself was just a lot of fun. It introduced new types of combat systems, strategic placement, and the characters are incredibly charming. It's a game that I actually sat down and started playing on stream a little while back, and I do intend to get back to and finish.
Awesome. Yeah, I haven't really expanded outside of Wild Arms except for the first one because, not gonna lie, Wild Arms was my placeholder for Final Fantasy VII. I bought that because I was trying to make past time for 7's release. So that was my experience with that. All right.
Anything I would just personal recommendation though, if you're going to be jumping into Wild Arms, because each of the games, much like Final Fantasy, aren't really tied to each other. They're their own separate stories. I would highly recommend picking up 2.
Okay. And I don't know if you know this, Nick, but I noticed that the first few were published by Sony, but then they got switched over to Age Tech. Do you know anything about that? What changed over there? Because I feel like that was a Sony IP and it wasn't anymore.
No, I don't know. I'm not too familiar with it.
Okay. I don't know if Ace, do you know anything about that? I just noticed that was the new thing on the box was Age Tech instead of Sony.
I think it was probably just, because Age Tech was already publishing Armored Core as well.
Oh yeah, that's true, huh?
So
they have
Wild Arms was another IP that Age Tech picked up to publish. I mean, hell, Age Tech published a couple of KOF games on the PS2.
that is wild.
Age Tech is TEC, right?
TEC,
it was like that
yeah.
red swoop kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah, very like early 2000s for sure logo.
Oh, I recognize that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. They helped publish like Armored Core and the Kingsfield games.
This is not even the right caption. Man, this is all jank today.
No, this is great. This is fun for me now.
Boom, there we go.
Pops up.
There we go. It's like I put the slides on random.
Random select.
Yeah, there you go. Random select. All right. So on the 11th, the one you see on the screen is the Suikoden 4 game on the PS2 back in 2003. I think after 2, Suikoden kind of fell through, and it became very cultish on what kind of gamers started playing Suikoden, and then like these games kept coming out, but like the player base kept dropping, which is really weird for Konami to do. But hey, I'm not complaining. These are one of the most rarest games on this console. So I don't know. Suikoden was the hit, what do you call it? The gripping feature of the game was you can collect 100 heroes, right, for your roster, and depending on what your actions were in the game, you can acquire more allies. So lots of replay value there, especially for a time where guides weren't really a thing yet, right? So you end up replaying it and you go, wow, I never thought I would have acquired this hero, and you kind of see if you try to acquire each hero. So 100 heroes is a lot of replay value. So,
especially with the different combinations of characters you could put in your formations.
Yeah, no, that's value right there. Like put 100 heroes in that thing. A few other games here, and I don't know if as our resident Sega owners here, because I didn't have a Genesis, Herzog's Zwei came out on a Genesis in 1990, and I looked at this game, and it was like a shmup slash like overhead action RPG. Correct me on that. I haven't played it, but the title is kind of insane, right? So super cool.
I remember it being a RTS game.
Really? See, I'm totally off, right? Totally off on that.
I remember it being a strategy game, just because it was one of those ones that because I played a lot of RTSs back in the day, and it was hard for me to play a lot of those games on console. So I didn't have a lot of consoles. Like when it came out, I had my old compact Presario for that to play my RTS games.
No!
You triggered him.
Yeah, man. I had one of those
Jesus
beige towers of power with a green button on it. I remember it very vividly in my head. That's why every once in a while you see those compilation videos on YouTube and stuff, right? Of just sounds only 90s kids recognize. And I'll hear the boot up noise to Windows 95, I'll hear the 56K connection going off, and it sends tingles down my spine. When I see that OG Presario case, same thing. I just get this nostalgia hit in the back of my skull. Anyway,
what does
Herzog.
It? So the you're speaking of sounds that send you tingles on your spine. The sound that I don't miss is the sound of the internet back then. When it sounded, when you pick up the phone while you're on the internet. Oh man,
hell no!
Do not miss that.
You have a soundbite for the Windows 95 boot up noise,
right? Checks notes.
I'll put that on my request.
You got mail. That'd be great. There you go.
Oh, give me the AOL alert too.
Yeah.
That it looks like it was an RTS game. I didn't play a lot of it, but it was there was that, and wasn't there an RTS Dune game on the Genesis too, or something like that?
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. As a kid, I wasn't aware of a lot of these movies. That I thought they were just games, right? And I didn't realize they had movies based on these games. But there was a Dune game for sure. I know a game that didn't have a movie was Super Adventure Island on the Super Nintendo back in 1992 in Japan. Magic the Gathering Battle Mage on the PC in 1997. So I play Magic, but I don't remember them having a PC game except for that stupid fighting game that sucks. So Ace, of course, Dynasty Warriors 3 Extreme Legends.
We couldn't get through a week without Dynasty.
On the PS2 in 2003, pretty much the complete version of Dynasty Warriors 3 at the time. And that's a big one because 3 was like when it started getting like popular and more people started playing it, which was technically 2.
Yeah, 3 was when it started getting popular, and 3 was also when they started, I still say 3 and especially Extreme Legends was literally the first time that I saw, a console game doing expansion discs as opposed to PC games doing.
That is true. That is true. And if you kids don't have retro systems like these, I can't believe I'm saying retro systems. This is crazy for PS2. Is that the expansion game also work with the original game? Right, like it recognizes you have the save file of the older game, and so I thought that was super neat.
Technology,
yeah. Oh man, memory cards. What the heck? That's wild. But yeah, here's a game that's timeless. That's showed up everywhere. Is Resident Evil 4, originally on the GameCube in 2005. And then as you see on the screen, Suikoden 4 on the PS2 in 2005. I wanted to throw this one in there for Nick, The Getaway Black Monday on the PS2 and also in 2005. This one was really weird because Army of Two, the 40th Day on the PSP in 2010. I think that also came out on the PS3 and 360, but it could be a different day. Ghost Trick recently got re-released on The Phantom Detective on the DS in 2011 also. What's up?
But yeah, I was about to say with I could have swore that Army of Two, didn't the original game come out alongside 40th Day or
no, 40th Day was a sequel.
Okay.
And Army of Two was just called Army of Two, but Army of Two was the sequel was called the 40th Day.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it was. But on the thing when I saw it was only said PSP, but kind of weird. Here's probably
the name of the third Army of Two.
Oh yeah, Devil's Cartel.
There you go.
Yeah. By the way, EA, I love Army of Two. You should bring that back. I'm just saying, super cool. I'm ready for it. Here's the thing that DC fans won't remember, or probably do remember. It's either they don't or they love it. Was DC Universe Online came out on the PC and PS3 in 2011. Technically a DC Universe MMO at the time. And I did play it a little bit, and it was super jank on controller. I hated it. And Kingdom Hearts, another Kingdom Hearts title, recoded on the DS in 2011. So I'd say my experience with this one is I love Army of Two. DC Universe was like, oh, I can make my own metahuman, right? I can have, and then you can kind of combine them to like either have the powers of Flash, Superman, or Batman. And I made like the Flash, but that thing was like super hard to control on a controller. So I didn't have a PC at the time. And that was pretty much it. I didn't play it too much because I was a fan of City of Heroes. You guys remember that game?
Yep.
Yeah. And that game was like shut down pretty quick. Yeah, City of Villains with the expansion. That was like on the tail end of my loving MMOs during that time. So, but yeah, any other things on this list that you guys?
Fun fact, maybe Ace, I know that James and I will a little bit more just because of our experience in the industry. But as far as retro video game collecting, which Suikoden is the most expensive?
Most expensive?
I know this answer.
I'd say 2.
Which one?
I'd say it would be either 2 or 5.
Which is it, 2 or 5?
I mean,
2.
James?
I'd say 2 originally, but since it's got remastered, I'm gonna say 5.
2 is still the most expensive. Some of them are starting to like normalize in price, but most of the time you'll see that for like 180, 200 for an NTSC label 1.
Oh, dear God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Nick, I don't know if you know this, but there is a steelbook of RE4 on the PS2.
Yes, there is.
And I wasn't aware of this also till recently. It even has Ada's little.
Yeah, if I remember right, there was also a steelbook on the PS2 for Shaolin monks.
No
Yes.
way.
Yeah.
No
I need to find
way.
it.
All right,
the
show's
same
over. I gotta go
style.
look for that.
It's the same style as that one you have in your hand. There was only a
love
couple
it.
that were released like that. It's not like the standard
Shaolin.
steelbooky kind
That
of
must have
thing.
been a GameStop
Like its
pre-order.
own tin case kind of
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
That could have been.
Steelbook for Mortal Kombat Shaolin monks. Sign me up.
Pretty sure.
Bro,
Pretty
yo,
sure it was.
remaster. Hey, can you imagine them doing a steelbook now for that game, a re-release? That'd be like so totally unnecessary for that. So, all right. Speaking of unnecessary games, Panzer Dragoon Orta. No, I'm just kidding. This was. Hey, you notice the amount of Sega games that are on this list this week? So,
Sorry, we're changing it. It's Platinum and Sega January.
So yeah, Sega was like, "Hey, January is our month. We gotta do this month." So, but yeah, so a couple other titles to come out on this day was WCW NWO Thunder on the PlayStation and back in 1999, very 1999 title. Parasite Eve 2 on the PlayStation back in 2000. Orta coming out on 2003 for the Xbox, and I think is on the screen here only on Xbox. My choice for this day was SimCity 4 back on the PC in 2003. Some rare RPGs on the 360, especially JRPGs called Enchanted Arms on the 360 in 2006. Lost Planet also debuted on the 360 this day in 2007. Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony on the PS4 and Vita in 2017 in Japan. Yet another Kingdom Hearts game being re-released, HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue X5000 Omega Strikers on PS4 in 2017 in Japan. So that's a big day for gaming. Not a lot of news, but a lot of releases for sure.
Yeah, and again, a whole lot of Sega.
Whole lot of Sega, man. Okay, so since we are in the month, and we've been seeing a lot of Virtua Fighter stuff, I'm excited for more Sega game titles coming out as well. So I'm curious. You know what's coming up here? Well, why is that so large? Jesus. There you go. But yeah, aside from that, that is our this week in gaming history. Thanks, guys. And here's a little thing.
I'd buy that for $1.
Heck yeah, I would. Absolutely. But yeah, it is the new year. We got a lot of stuff to cover this year. There's a lot of games already being announced, right? I'm expecting an announcement for the last Final Fantasy 7 title, which I think is going to be called Resurrected, in my opinion. So we don't know. So, but yeah, we'll get on that. But yeah, who's gonna cover this second one here for you guys? I can't remember which one.
I think it's our Dynasty Warrior himself.
Oh, okay. All right, Emperor, let's go.
So yeah, this next part that we got cooked up for you guys, it's a little something that I know I talked a little bit about, during most of my streams coming up towards New Year's, but just with the new year actually here now, I'm sure there's a lot that folks have wanted to try and either follow up on from the previous year or improve upon. Everyone makes their New Year's resolutions, right? And it's the same for your faculty here. We've got goals, we've got benchmarks that we want to hit this year, we've got things that we want to try and get back to or improve upon from last year that we may have probably started doing, but for various reasons didn't keep up with. So we figured that this episode, this session would be a great time to just kind of reevaluate how we're going to be moving forward, how we're going to be moving forward into the next stage, that is 2025. So yeah, I mean, if you want to share some of your New Year's gaming and non-gaming related resolutions with us as well. I mean, this is a community effort. Each one teach one. So let's get together. Let's talk about what we want to do this year, how we want to improve, how we want to see ourselves and each other grow. And just going down the list, I see a good couple things that you wanted to talk about, Nick. So why don't you go ahead and take point?
You're going to start with me? Come on. You are the Dynasty Warrior origin here.
Yeah,
I think
you want to play all of them this year, right? That's what's happening.
Well, just to kind of pick up on that really quick, though, just aside from Dynasty Warriors Origins and I was going to mention this in the now playing segment later, but like a couple days back, I actually held me and one of my buddies, we held a giveaway on stream for a copy of Dynasty Warriors Origins, or at least, a gift card for the cost of Dynasty Warriors Origins. And she decided to try and troll me by having me play the original Dynasty.
I remember that.
The
Origins.
I sat down and I started playing it, and like literally the only thing I had played of Dynasty Warriors, the OG, was just, the demo. And I was like, okay, the demo was pretty cool. But sitting down and actually playing through the game itself, they were onto some shit.
On some shit?
Like, some of the mechanics in Dynasty Warriors. And I mean, not just noticing certain moves that were actually, pulled into the character's move sets later, like, in the later games, but also, different things like they actually have a weapon clash system in the OG Dynasty Warriors.
I was aware of that. That's cool.
I had no idea until I was literally playing it, and I was like, I think I was at the start when I was using Zhao Yun, and I got into a straight up, weapon clash with Xiahou Dun, and I'm like, hold up, what? They were doing this all the way back then? It was crazy, but part of what that did though was kind of rekindle my desire to actually play back through the rest of my backlog. I mean, I've started collecting, more of the old school titles and trying to rebuild my gaming collection. And now with so many games that I have, sitting over here on the shelf, might as well get down to playing through them as I pick up more.
I feel you on that, and I think that's why for my resolution this year that I actually talked about on my streaming channel, on my not non-academy one, was on this year I'm doing the A to Z Gaming Challenge. So, and if you guys weren't aware what that was, if you're unfamiliar with it, I am gonna play a video game starting from the letter A all the way to Z this year, and try to just play games I have not played yet, challenging myself to play 26 games that that I'm not consistently playing. So right now I actually just started not too long ago playing Aliens Dark Descent, and I played Aliens Fireteam, third person, 3-player shooter, corridor shooter, and Dark Descent is actually quite the opposite. And the way it was advertised was a little bit weird because it felt like an RTS, but it's nothing like an RTS. If anything, it's like Commandos back in 1996, the way it's played. But going back more on the A to Z Gaming Challenge, I try to find games that are in variety. Like I wasn't focusing on RTS, first-person shooters. I wanted to grab every type of game that I could, whether it's AAA, single A, indie, right? And just try to, dip my toes in every game that I can for the next year, for this year, kind of expanding, getting out of my comfort zone. And
what
there was a lot.
Or why?
Why?
Yeah,
I gotta go look. But yeah,
if you didn't pick Yakuza 0, then I'm rioting.
Well, I did put Judgment in there, and
that's not why though.
and Lost Judgment. I actually have my list here that I can paste on chat for you guys to take a look at. But for why I pick Yuppie Psycho. And
oh no!
So are you guys familiar with Yuppie Psycho by any chance?
Heard of it, yeah.
Okay. It is actually a horror game, but the aesthetic of the game is pixel art. So it's gonna be super interesting. And it's man, this list is like, this guy plays everything and anything. He plays trash. like there's no rhyme and reason for this list unless he just likes video games, right? It just ranges so crazy. Like on this list, I have River City Girls, I have Okami HD because I've never played it, all the way to Gears Tactics, right? Never played that either. So, and the game that I'm really excited for, and by the way, I'm not playing this list on any particular order, right? We're just gonna knock off games off this list, was Xeno Crisis. And I believe Fluffy in the chat told me about this game, and it's like Smash TV fused with Aliens. So I am ready for this game as soon as I beat Aliens.
Yo, let me know. I will be in the chat. I will make sure that I'm there to watch because that sounds hype as hell.
Can you imagine taking on a Xeno Queen and be like,
I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah.
that's
Yes!
really weird.
Yes!
I'm just saying that would be interesting. So that is my 2025 ADZ gaming challenge for this year. The other thing too is I do want to like really work on the backlog, you know, because every time we beat a game, we buy 2 extra games on sale, and that's kind of how I work, right? And I've been debating too. This is kind of like a self thing that's like semi-game and non-game related. Like I have a collection of like collector's editions, right? And I'm kind of finding myself like, should I open this or should I just leave it closed and just buy it digitally, right? Because is it worth more when it's closed? And I don't know if the chat has experienced something like this before, where they're having kind of an internal struggle, like maintaining the value of a collector's item, right? And in sacrificing putting it on the wall because it's open, right? And I'm like, am I getting to that age where it's not as important for me to have it on the wall and be able to retain its monetary value for, you know, to sell it later because I want to buy more adult things like a house someday, right? So that's kind of like the internal feud that I'm having right now with stuff like this. But with the kind of like the release of all these games from a wide range of titles, like I don't find myself. It's also just a matter of space, right? As you can see back here, I have, you know, the dragon pile of video game over here behind me, and putting them out of boxes is really challenging, especially if you're moving all the time. So, and now we're kind of like experiencing this thing where if I even remotely open this box, it loses $300 in value. Is it worth it? You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like the internal feud conversation that I'm having with myself. And if you guys have kind of like that dilemma in the past before, especially with like a beloved collector's item, I'd love to know like what you kind of like reasoned your way into doing so. Even if you opened it, if you didn't open it, I'd love to know. Put it in chat. But as far as right now, that's kind of my challenge for 2025. And the only other thing I can think of is I'll finally break down and play Final Fantasy Remake because I've been avoiding it for 3 years. Because I'm pretty sure I told my chat this was that I'm pretty sure when I play this game, I'm going to break down and like kind of like be emotional about it, just because one of the things that I've always considered back in 7 was like, I want to hear these characters talk to each other. I want to hear their like emotions as they're, you know, when I'm playing the game, because back then we just had text on the screen and they were polygonal, right?
Right.
Now that they have voice acting and now they, you know, you can hear their voices and like have more a realistic look about them. I just have a feeling that like once I start hearing Cloud talk to Tifa, I'm gonna just kind of like shake my head and be like, oh my god, this is the game. Oh man, like
that's fair.
Yeah, so it's like I want to get myself emotionally ready for a remake, and hopefully I can manage to sneak that in before the ADZ gaming challenge. So that's my resolution for this year.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. To be honest, once I stopped working in the video game store and started working, you know, in the industry proper, I stopped collecting and I got rid of a bunch of my collection. I had a bunch of PS3 games that I had collected, a bunch of Dreamcast games, my Dreamcast Collector's Edition consoles. Like, I just realized it was taking up space. I wasn't really playing it. And the intention to sell, you never know where the market's going to be. That's a conversation I have had multiple times with my wife and with customers and with people in the industry. You never know what's going to be hot. You may think it'd be worth something one day, but with the way the market works, you know, the way that everything's happening in 2025 potentially coming up, like it's hard to say. So I was looking at values and saying, like, do I honestly need this, or do I need the space? Do I need something else or this? What do I really need this thing for? Was it satisfying a need for me? And that's entirely subjective. So it's tough to say. I can absolutely understand holding on to some of that stuff. But the fact that you said emotional, that's when I started only buying collector's editions for series that were important to me, that I had a long-term attachment with, that I was buying those collector's editions for me, not to resell.
Yeah.
That being said, over time, that can change. I loved, and I'm a little notorious with my friends for this game, but when Horizon Zero Dawn came out, I played the demo at PAX at PlayStation's giant booth there, and I was not impressed. The demo was not impressive. The little area they put you in, I'm like, it's pretty enough, but it's not really a great game. Nothing really grabbed me. I don't know if I'm gonna like it. The game came out, got really good reviews. I decided on a whim to buy it with my employee discount. Brought it back 2 hours later after I got off work to buy the collector's edition. I was in love with it. Like, wasted money absolutely on that. I didn't get a good trade-in value. I just put it towards the collector's edition because I had to have it. I loved it that much. I still have that collector's edition, but I've been noticing going into stores and stuff that even the used open box version of that collector's edition, if you have everything, which I do with the outer box and Great Nick, it's worth a lot of money comparatively. Like, I bought it for 120. You can sell it online for a lot more than that, about 4 or 5 times that easily.
Wow.
So I'm kind of looking at it here in my shelf in my closet behind me. You can't see, you have the door closed. It's filled with collector's editions of stuff that I don't really need. I played the hell out of the game. I love it. I love the steelbook. That's one where I'm starting now to be like, do I really need it? Because my resolution, as you two saw that I wrote here, I found out I'm going to be a dad this year. And it's a lot of things have come into focus. So a lot of my resolutions now are like, I want to get back into health routines. During the holidays, you always kind of slack off a little bit, hurt my back. And, I get a little sedentary when that happens. I couldn't move around. That's one of the reasons I couldn't make one of the streams. So with a kid coming this year, I'm trying to save up as best I can for a lot of things, trying to reevaluate what's going to be worthwhile to hold on to, and hopefully be able to save a little money and get a Switch. I haven't had a Switch forever. I borrowed one from my friend, and my wife and I were playing that together, and I think it'll be a good foundation for when this kid comes along to kind of introduce him to something that we're both interested in. And I've sold Switches for years. I know a lot about the games. I know a lot about the system. Never really owned one myself because it wasn't for me outside of the couple titles, and then I could just borrow it from a friend kind of thing. So for me, it's like I'm looking at that and I really want to try it out. I want to see if it's something for my family. So it's kind of like trying something different out of the norm, but based on something that's, kind of life changing. And, like I said, reevaluating. Other than that, gaming related, I want to finish my Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough. It
That's
keeps
a lot.
getting delayed. It keeps getting delayed. I keep trying different things. You hear about Dark Urge playthroughs, and you got to go through it again. I got a buddy of mine into it, and we've been playing together, and we're like not even on Act 1 yet, and we've put some decent time into it. Like, my resolution is to finally finish my main playthrough on that.
I don't know if you saw you looked at that list yet, Nick, but for M, I put Mass Effect.
Which one?
Legendary, so I'm gonna do all of it.
You can do both. Okay.
Yeah,
that counts are you counting that as one game?
That's kind of as one game, man.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna play through it blind, right, on stream, and I'm just gonna go with decisions with the mindset of how I would make the decision now. That's all.
Yeah.
And, I am the shepherd. Is that what they call him? I'm just kidding.
Sure.
Going back to that, though, just, the conversation as far as, collecting versus, space, and that sort of life evaluation, it's actually interesting because I feel like, it's like all three of us are at different points or have come to different conclusions just off of that same question. Because again, with me, I'm at a point in my life, but also in a particular position in my life where I can start rebuilding the collection that I had. And it's not even a value proposition as far as market value proposition. It's definitely more personal. It's more, I'm collecting these games not just because they're important to me, not just because I've played them in the past, but because I do intend on actively getting back to playing them again. This isn't just sitting on the shelf collecting dust. I mean, hell, you mentioned wanting to pick up a Nintendo Switch. I was gifted an OLED model for Christmas. And I've been going back through playing Hyrule Warriors. I got the definitive edition because, I used to have Hyrule Warriors on the Wii U. I got that. I got Age of Calamity. and I'm going back through and I'm picking up games that I saw over the lifespan of the Switch that I'm like, I would play this. I want to play this, but I don't have the system for it.
Yeah.
And here
It's
we
like
are.
we said, it's subjective, and it's interesting even within a certain span or even a certain industry. Like I mentioned, working in the industry, the people that I got to know, like there are people that are hardcore collectors, like go everywhere, to every store, to every flea market, swap meet, whatever they can to get and collect and build out these massive,
I miss going
like,
to swap meets.
mint collection kind of things. And believe me, there's still a part of me that if I was able to afford a house, I would want a basement area just for me, and would have a couple arcade machines. It would have the neon lights. It would have the what I want kind of thing. That's still always going to be there in the back of my head. But then reality kind of sets in, and it's like, okay, to get there, I've got to do all these things. So in the meantime, what's worthwhile for me in this phase of my life? The collector stuff that I have are things like I have that Master Chief helmet that's signed by 343 crew. Like I keep larger things that are more like personal or sentimental. I make room for those.
Mhm.
And then like the collector's editions for games, I'm not buying it unless it's something I'm absolutely in love with, or a series that is intrinsic to my life. I bought the Virantium edition for Dragon Age Veilguard. I have not put more than like 40 hours into that game. I just stopped. I started playing Metaphor, and I fell in love with that. I've been playing that. I remember buying. I didn't play any of the older Personas. I played Persona 5, loved it so much. I sought out the collector's edition for that and bought it. Like I've got to, something has to really speak to me for me to be like, okay, I'm going to spend the time, effort, and money to make sure that this is in my life because it's that important to me. But I get the motivations behind it. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's definitely like a crossroad right now of like what to do.
Yeah, you hit a breaking point. Like you said, that's what happened to me when I was, because I moved down to the Seattle area for career stuff after I stopped working at the arcade in the retro store, and it just like I was living in a condo, a 2-bedroom, 1-bath condo with my wife, and we're building stuff out. We're building this life together. I'm like, I honestly don't need these consoles. They're just in boxes. They've sat there for 2 years in boxes. Like I said, I'm not going to get around to playing it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, only time will tell, and I think the lesson to be had here, the number one takeaway is like depending on the situation in life, you get to dictate, what's important to you, right? Whether it's gaming related or not, you'll make the choices and sacrifice needed, right?
Happy birthday, Andre! I am also hitting a milestone at the end of this month. Mine's a little further along.
But yeah, I mean, with that said, 2025 is kind of set into motion here.
Heck yes, can't wait, especially for this next part.
Yeah, there's a lot of titles.
Packed.
A lot of titles coming up. I feel like I think I said to myself, I feel like that's the conversation we have every year. This year is packed with gaming. And this is why I said earlier when I said it's a good time to be alive as a gamer, because I feel like when I was a kid, there was only like 1 or 2 titles that you were excited about, and you had to wait like 2 to 3 years for that, ever since it gets released on GamePro or EGM, right? And then now we have the gaming, sphere is so abundant in games that like you can wait for a game for 3 years, but you also have 5 games in the backlog you haven't tried yet. And it's changed so much ever since I was a kid, but in a positive way, in my opinion, right? Of course, there's some negatives, and we kind of covered those back in 2024, but we're looking forward to 2025. What are some games are you guys looking forward to coming out this year?
Well, I'm sure y'all know that. Do I even need to say it? Do I even need to say it?
Anarchy Reigns 2, right? That's what I heard.
Man, I swear to God, if Sega actually approached Platinum and they just out of nowhere just say, "Hey, Mad World Collection," or "Hey, Anarchy Reigns 2," y'all would hear me all the way across the town.
Sirens and cops show up. That's Anarchy Reigns, all right.
But no, real talk. Dynasty Warriors Origins is definitely one of the big ones that I'm looking forward to. That's hitting early this year. It's going to take up a good
Right,
chunk
Andre?
of the year for me. But also, like coming up, literally Friday, actually, Freedom Wars Remastered.
There we go. That's a good start.
Like, I mean, just literally like the first 3 weeks of this year has got just solid titles that have so much cross community appeal that I mean I'm glad that I'm getting the chance to play these games, but I'm also glad that so many other people have now taken an interest in them. I mean, let's just say, if I'm going to sugarcoat it at all, I'm something of a Muso loyalist.
Muso maniac.
No
Like
way.
I really,
For real?
I really dig into these.
Press X to down.
But I mean,
Press
I
X to
really dig into
Muso.
these games, and I'm one of the people that if someone just makes an offhand comment about Dynasty Warriors being a button masher, I would my ears would perk up because it's like you may not be giving the games the kind of it may not be in your wheelhouse, it may not be something you're interested in, but it's still one of those things where it's like give it a little bit of time to dig deeper, and you can see that while you can still button mash your way through the games and have fun with them, there's a lot more to them, and I'm always up for having that conversation.
Good, and I'm glad that you're passionate about it, because a lot of streamers and influencers write off Dynasty Warriors because they see it as just the same game every time, right?
And a good chunk of them, especially a good number that I watch, had written them off as just mindless button mashers until they got their hands on that demo for Origins.
Oh, and I think that demo needed to happen to wake up everybody that it's back and it's different, right? And it's like they're appeasing both new and old, loyalists as well. So I'm excited for it. I'm definitely going to be playing that with you when it comes out.
But also, going back to your mention of, being grateful for being alive in this kind of timeline where there's such an abundance of games coming out every year, not to take it, not to make things too morose, but I'm going to say it. There was actually a point in my life where I was in bad shape mentally. I was in bad shape emotionally. And there was a small part of me that thought, you know what? It's game over. There's nothing else that I could possibly want to. It felt like my life was over, and all I needed to do was just turn the system off and be done with it. But part of the reason I'm still here today is literally because I thought, you know what? There's probably going to be some new shit coming out. You still like video games, Nelson. There's probably going to be some new shit coming out that if you decide to take the bad end now, you won't get the chance to play those.
Yeah, you don't want to do that because the life cycle of a Dynasty Warriors game is like 2 years. So that gotta wait next year.
Did you know you can soft reset Dynasty Warriors with pressing start and select at the same
time? Not to make light of it.
Hey,
if it's only another year, man. You're gonna get another.
If we can't laugh about it, then what can we laugh about, right?
Yeah. Also, I mean, like I said, if not Dynasty Warriors, Samurai Warriors, it's gonna be something,
right. Just interchange it.
Warriors Orochi 27. Like that's what's gonna happen.
Now, other than that, though, like even outside of Dynasty Warriors Origins, though, probably the biggest game that I am looking forward to getting my hands on and playing and sharing and streaming with everybody this year, hands down, got to be Fatal Fury: City of the Wolves.
Preach.
Cool.
The art style of that game is amazing, and I think SNK finally found their aesthetic, because for a while there, when during COVID, when they had, 14 was their like return, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't really a welcome return because they were still trying to get their foot in the door, right? The gameplay was good, didn't play great online, and it looked like booty, right? In comparison to the other games that were already out, right? And I think what really got SNK written back on the map for a game that had terrible online, but the offline experience was awesome. It looked really cool.
Gotta be Samurai Showdown.
Samurai Showdown really, like, dude, they're back, right? They just got to figure out this online thing. And guess what? We got KOF 15 after that. And that thing is amazing, right? And now they took it even an extra step with City of the Wolves. So they're doing it. They figured it out. Like,
and
this is what people like.
And heck, from that, now SNK has KOF Studio, specifically devoted to fighting game development.
We're going to see Last Blade 3. I'm telling you.
Oh my God.
They're back.
Don't hurt my emotions like that, man.
They're going to do it, man. And here's the thing. I feel like
if we see Last Blade or World Heroes.
Oh, World Heroes. My God.
Once again, y'all would hear me all the way across town.
Yeah. And here, SNK to me has the same archive of characters and worlds like Capcom, and they don't need to make new shit. They need to bring back old shit and make it new, and because like these are the things people fell in love with them with, right? So they have attachment to them, right? And like, for example, why are we clapping for an Okami sequel, right? Because people loved Okami, right? The new people will be like, what is this, right? But that will be that. I feel like that response to new players is going to be anything for any game, right? So why at least have people that have been devoted to you, cater to those, while at the same time, catering to the new people.
I'd have to see sales figures, but I remember the original Kami not doing
anything.
Well.
Clover wasn't.
It was kind of more of like it was super like cult hit kind of thing. Great art style. I loved it. I was super excited to see a new Okami game coming out. And I own Okami HD on PS4. Like I bought that when it came out for it. Like I had to play more of it. There's definitely like a fan base for those kind of games. But I can see like nuts and bolts, dollars and cents, why certain things are still sitting on a shelf, unfortunately, as much as we call them beloved or cult classics, especially with rising costs, like we said. But it's a good time for Kami to come back. Capcom's been on a roll lately. They have the runway to do these kind of projects again, and it would be great if more companies and teams in the industry are allowed that.
Yeah, no, hear me out, because like I don't expect AAA titles to be re-released from old IPs, right? For example, the best example of this that I saw recently was the new Ninja Gaiden game. Right? We don't need a AAA Ninja Gaiden. That Ninja Gaiden game they just announced is perfect for Ninja Gaiden. And then if that sells well, then they're going to make a AAA version. Right? So
I remember that's a smaller team,
yeah,
right?
completely smaller, but it's like a search action game. Yeah. I'm like, Ninja Gaiden and search action game, that's great. That's perfect. So that's kind of what I mean. Like, they don't have to go all in. Like, they just have to be creative with the IPs, right? Or have the world of that IP.
Speaking of creative with the IP, speaking of Onimusha, thanks to Andre there in the chat. My favorite Onimusha was 3 because they brought in Jean Renault and you got to go to France.
Which we'll never get a remaster of.
That was awesome. Yeah.
Okay. This would be one of those where if Onimusha 3 got a remaster, you would hear both me and Nick all the way across town.
Yeah, multiple sirens.
One of my favorite French actors. I love Leon the Professional, and that game when it came out, when I saw those two people on the cover, I'm like, no way.
and then when you pop the disc in and you see that intro choreographed by Donnie Yen, bro.
A confluence of amazing things.
Exactly.
Not to get too far away from it, but my 2025 new me video games, what I'm looking forward to playing, to surprise no one, Civ 8. I want to play Civ 8. I do want to try AC Shadows. At this point, it's kind of like a weird train wreck curiosity
That's
kind
right.
of thing, just to see like delays and everything that happened with it. Like, what kind of product are they putting out now? What honestly are we going to get from it that has changed from the trailers and the preview event stuff that we've seen? I'm just interested to see what happens in that because that could be interesting for this year. Avowed, I've been hearing amazing things about that, and I'm getting more and more interested in it. I love the cover art, can't wait for it. Of course, Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza. Ace and I could talk all day about that. I am interested in GTA. I am interested in GTA 6. We're going to talk a little bit about that here with one of our articles, so we'll talk more about that then. Ghost of Yotei. And for me, my own little personal bubble of games that I can't stop playing. 2 Point Museum is coming out. I play all the 2 Point games. I love the original Bullfrog team, so like Theme Hospitals, what I played back in the day. I can't get enough of those games. If you're friends with me on Steam, you'll still see most of my hours are put into 2 Point Campus lately. It's that and Baldur's Gate. I just for some reason that's just what I'm all about. Bunch of other games coming out this year. We may not have mentioned yours, but just like a quick run through: Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. That's coming out. Monster Hunter Wilds. We didn't talk about that at all. I know you two are all
I'm playing
about that.
Yep.
Suikoden 1 and 2
Getting that,
remastered.
yep.
Atelier
Yep.
Yumiya is coming out. Blaze.
Yumiya looks amazing.
I know
That
you're all
funny
about
thing
that.
we talked about that, right? Seeing the trailer for that game made me want to go back and investigate the other games.
Atomfall, which is that really cool trailer that we got, that kind of weird futuristic robot but in the English countryside kind of thing. Exoborn, Den of Wolves, First Berserker Kazan. We talked about that before. Exodus. We haven't heard dates on some of these, so bear with me, but like Borderlands 4, we'll see what happens with that. Death Stranding 2, Doom Dark Ages, Dying Light the Beast, Killing Floor 3, Elden Ring, Night Rain, Fable, still don't know when that's coming out, hopefully this year.
Hell.
Lunar Remastered Collection, Mecha Break, Metroid Prime 4, PAX Day, which is another MMO that people have been kind of talking about lately. Phantom Blade Zero, Replaced, which is a game that I've been really interested in for quite a while. I love that cyberpunk aesthetic. The trailer for that is still so good. Reminds me of a game called The Last Night, one of those kind of like, it's not vaporware, but there was like an announcement trailer at like an E3 or an Xbox thing. Amazing looking game, kind of pixel art cyberpunk, but it's never seen the light of day, and it's been like 8 years. Wuchang the Fallen Feather, Mafia Old Country, Expedition 33, South of Midnight, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. So yes, 2025 should have some bangers.
There is a lot there, and I'm already like check. I want to get that. I want to play that. There are some games in there. I don't think there's one game in there I didn't think you mentioned, but Split Fiction was the other one I was interested in.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I forgot that.
And
it's a super interesting game.
Also, that reminds me, and it's actually a game that I saw an announcement for that the developer is actually looking for, content creators to do some coverage for. But Mouse, PI for hire.
What? Is that Mouse with MAUS?
No, MOUSE.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Imagine it's basically first person shooter Steamboat Willie.
Oh yeah, this game. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Mickey Mouse is on the Creative Commons now.
It's open. Yeah.
He's
but yeah,
public.
Mouse PI for hire looks awesome.
It looks crazy, dude. I feel like I feel like playing this game. I feel like I'm playing like an old like short from like Liquid Television back in 1997.
Exactly.
Gosh, and if you guys know what Liquid Television is, you're old like me. That's my gag that I have.
Speaking of Liquid Television, if you haven't had the chance to pick it up yet, especially you, GQ, please take a look at Cookie Cutter.
Wait, okay, I'm thinking of Cookie Clicker, not Cookie Cutter. Okay, I was like, yeah,
not the same.
Yeah, two different actions.
Not the same, but yeah, okay. Cookie Cutter on the PS4 or Steam. Basically, imagine a search action or action exploration, an action exploration game that just like, to say that it feels like playing through this game is like playing like playing through a series that could have been animated specifically for Liquid Television, man, it is wild in the best of ways.
Yeah, and I feel like we didn't get a lot of, like we're so I guess like spoiled with all these creators and their talents, right? We didn't have all that accessibility back then. So for good animation and like, not mainstream animation is what I would call it. Liquid TV really put some talent on the board there, like with Aeon Flux. I would have never known about Aeon Flux without Liquid Television, so kind of crazy. As far as looking forward towards the future, I personally like looking things back in the past and kind of like retrospect of how great 2024 was or how terrible it was in gaming. I feel like last year there was a lot of drama and now that's spilling over in 2025, but that's not without its merit. Like, I feel like there are a lot of games now that people are complaining about in the state of gaming, right? But I'm not here for that because there's a lot of channels that are specifically only talk about that, right? I kind of want to celebrate gaming. I don't want to kind of just tear it down every day and all day. So I think some of a few things that were like my games of the year or the things that I want to celebrate of last year was not anything specific. Like, Black Myth Wukong was a big title from last year, but I think it's more the idea of that gaming development is not only Japan and America anymore. Like we've like expanded to like, other European countries, Latin America. The Chinese market is also in this. Like, if you told me there was a Chinese game
in gaming,
I understand, but like development wise, we never really heard about that back in the 90s. Like you tell me there's a Chinese game released in the 90s, we're like, this is probably bootleg, right? We don't know. They never were on the map, or even Korea.
Hong Kong 97.
Yeah, that exactly. So now that the fact that they're on the radar with Stellar Blade, right? And it was like Genshin Impact, right? They're all Chinese developers. They're coming for America and Japan. And I think they've been comfortable way too long, and to see this like external third faction come after the industry, I think it makes the other two established countries got to stay on their toes a little bit more.
It's a good shakeup.
Yeah, and I don't even think shakeup is the right word for it. I think it's just shining the light on the talent that's out there. Because to be honest, there's been more than those markets for a long time. It's just the narrative in the gaming industry for the longest time was, if you want to hit, it's got to be in the North American market or it's got to be in the Japanese market.
Correct.
But for a long time, I mean, someone like myself who's played a lot of MMOs, there's a reason they're called Korean MMOs. Like NCSoft, those Korean companies, those have been around since the late 90s.
Nexon.
Yeah, Nexon, Netmarble as well. Like, they've been making games for a while. Say what you will about the quality, but you can say that about any market. And there's some big hits that those teams had. Like, it's huge. It's a lot bigger than that. I mean, again, they're trying to talk about metrics, the size of the market, the money they're making there. That's going to still like be part of the conversation for a while. But like you said, being aware of the fact that there's so much more available out there. And who knows who the next, like you mentioned Europe, but with CD Projekt from Poland, like who's the next one of those to come from one of these countries that you don't expect, where they do have the talent that isn't somewhere else. And like again, a lot of these publishers, sorry, Ace, not to interrupt you, but a lot of these publishers that we talked about, Take-Two earlier, they bought a bunch of publishers and then set up a new publishing house in a different part of Australia. 2K Australia had some stuff. Like there is talent there, just whether or not they're given the runway and the money to do so.
And more often than not, again, we've been seeing a lot of established development houses and a lot of established publishers where the talent that was already there is breaking away to venture out on their own. I mean, again, you've got Clovers. You got Clovers bringing back Konami. You've got Red Wolf, which is the team that split off from CD Projekt. Let's see. There's of course Kojima Productions. Let's see. Igarashi's off on his own doing his thing with Bloodstained. Like, it's there is a lot of change going on in the industry, and again, not just with these developers that are splitting off, but also again, more talent from previously I guess not so heavily reported on regions that are really making headway into you know
Right.
into the broader
Yeah.
zeitgeist.
And like I said, it who's going to give them the chance? A really good example, and I put this in the article section. We're not going to have time to go over it tonight, but just as like a quick fact, so Tango GameWorks, kind of like one of the like indie
Mhm.
darlings of this last year, they're saved. They were purchased by another company. They're going to relive. They're going to probably have to rebrand, but Tango will still live on, and they will still give games. That they were bought by Krafton, which is Korean. So there's a Korean publisher out there who bought Tango GameWorks in order to give that team the time, money that they need to put in the effort to make another great game. And that's they were let go from the Xbox, portfolio, and now look at them. They're going to get a chance somewhere else, and with a company out of Korea.
Yeah, someone that appreciates them pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And like I said, it's like for a long time, and we've been gaming since the 80s, right? Probably longer than that. But like for the longest time, it's been the two world powers, Japan and the West, right? And the West meaning the US. But like even like I saw a Latin games showcase on CES or one of those shows, I can't remember, and I was like, Latin America makes video games? Like my ignorant self was like, just because I was programmed to believe that only the two biggest powerhouses in the industry is Japan and America, right?
And that's historical. It's just, I mean,
Yeah,
after
that's
the
big.
video game crash in '83, Japan, what Nintendo did is the only reason we may have an industry
Yeah.
today is because of what that happened. So yeah, it became a powerhouse because it came a flashpoint, and that's the takeaway from this. What is the next flashpoint? What is the next like spawning ground for these great ideas, the next innovative idea? It's not being
Indies.
close-minded, right? So it's just one of those things. Yeah, it's just the market has forced us historically to consider it that way. But like you said, and like we've covered, where's the next place going to be? Because there is talent out there.
Yeah. No, and I'm glad that they're getting exposure on both sides. Like the light, smaller talent are getting more of a spotlight on them, and also the bad practices of the bigger studios are getting spotlighted on, right? If they're not listening to gamers anymore, and going with what I guess they're going with what doesn't sell, what they think would sell, but it's not like factually not being sold, right? So the numbers will say that, and my thing is always, they can make it if they want to, but if no one buys it, don't complain, right? But because everyone always kind of tries to fight that, like, oh, if you buy this, you're X and A B C, and I'm like, well, I'm not interested in it, regardless of what you think of me, right? So and I hope that down the road that more smaller studios get a chance to be big, and I'm noticing a lot of smaller games. I'm more drawn to them now than ever before, right? So. Best of luck for them in 2025. I don't know what other some 2024 kind of like reflections you guys got.
We talked about Concord like crazy. What the hell was that situation? What a weird like
There's a lot of money put in that
microcosm
game.
of the industry that happened in like this 1 month span. It felt like it was less than that for like, what was it, 11 days, right?
Yeah, barely 2 weeks. And that's crazy. And it sounds like Concord to me was a guy that was like, I'm gonna make this game, and then another guy going, no, you're not. And then, but I am. And then there's a lot of miscommunication, and when you get too big, and I understand that when companies get too big, it's hard to kind of relay the vision and the message to that of the game, right, and what the end release is. It's funny. The reason I say this is because I watched this like clip of like this skit on YouTube Reels, right, where it's like this dev talking to the guy, the suit, and the guy was like, all right, man, we only have like 6 months left in this game. What do you got for me? And the dev was like, all right, I saw a comment on the internet and it was bad, so I redid the game engine. Right? And the guy was like, now the world naturally has an AI. You can look at the skin follicles of the game, and even that has AI. And so I had to redo this. And the guy was like, that sounds expensive. Like, so it was like literally a mirror of the industry of what's happening behind the scenes. And I was like, this is so accurate. I should save this and send it to the guys. But I was just laughing so hard I didn't get a chance to. But that's pretty much it. Like, you guys in suits that don't care, and then you have devs that are like, oh, well, I want everyone to be happy. So when there's too many chefs in the kitchen, you know, especially from the vocal public, right, and the pressure, you end up with like something that wasn't even intended to be made, with over budget and bloating, right? So
I tend to be a little bit of the I'll be honest, I tend to be the devil's advocate sometimes when we have these conversations, just because I see the back end and I've been a part of it. And there's stuff like that, though, you can't defend when it's like out there in the open and blatant. You're like, oh, that was just a bad choice, like across the board by everyone. That's just not good. So yeah, the Concord thing was like 2024 was, and Andre said it in chat, and a couple other people did as well. It was wild for a lot of reasons, and we don't want to get too negative, but like for me, it was Concord because it was just such a massive failure on so many levels, and it was out there in the open. Like, it was very obvious with a live service game, it's going to be that way. Game Informer closing down in 2024. That's super sad. I mean, shout out to all my homies at every GameStop that was forced to sell memberships for that.
I was part of that madness.
Yeah. I mean, I loved watching or reading Game Informer for the longest time. But, you know, it lost its luster once I had to sell it all the time. Andre, the Helldiver situation and where they've gone now, and now they're kind of back in everyone's good graces. Nintendo suing Pal World as well.
Dude, that is, bro, that to me is the craziest thing, a game feature to be sued by that. It's like, and another streamer said this, it's like, to them, it's like Nintendo saying that we'll sue you if you put a jump button in your game. Like, literally, like the same thing. And them winning that, just like that will like expand on that like down the road. You know what I'm saying? It opens up a wormhole of other things.
I forget, there was something similar to that. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, and I'll probably think of it the moment we're done with the podcast. But that same kind of thing where a company tries to like put some kind of patent on a word that's like
candy.
You can't do that. It's just like, what do you do?
Candy and Let's Plays were the two words, the two big ones back then. But that's it's crazy. And also, like, come on, Nintendo, stop bullying these smaller companies. But I get it, they're super protective about their stuff.
But 2024, I mean, again, not to get super negative with it, but the layoffs in the industry, and you know, I was affected by that myself, and it's something that hits home for me and a lot of my friends in my network. And it's scary just for the fact that 2025 is just going to continue that trend. It's just, I want
to piggyback on this conversation, actually. So there was a thing in the Game Awards where that guy was like, I help gamers or developers find jobs.
Yeah, their shout out guy, their community.
Was that the most tone deaf shit have you ever heard, or what?
No, I don't think it was. But that may be the fact that I was affected by it, and I know people that were. If you weren't directly connected to that, it can sound tone deaf. I don't think it was. There's not a lot of resources out there for people in industry to have those kind of connections. I think maybe it's packaging, the way that it was shared and the way that it was presented could have been done differently and maybe helped you with that tone deafness. But the mission behind it, I think, is important.
I think there was also some information that came out, you know, specifically about that particular person, that he was involved in he's involved in some kind of I think it was like acquisition. Oh,
I think he was like 10 cents.
Yeah,
he acquires smaller companies when they're dead or something like that. So
you know, it's basically, you know, they go in, you know, they swoop in, acquire these companies.
That's a conspiracy, gaming conspiracy hole for sure. For sure. Well, I mean, you know, here's the thing. You know, you talk about Concord. The biggest surprise to me this year, actually, for gaming was actually Star Wars Outlaws, just because Star Wars is such a big IP, right? And they put more money into its marketing than they did in the development of the game, from what I heard. And it also just flopped drastically. I've never played it. I can't make a comment on the game, but like, when you throw that much money on a very popular IP, like, what happened? What do you think happened there?
expectations with that on there. I mean, the last few Star Wars games were the Jedi Survivor, Jedi. What was the other one? I keep wanting to say
Yeah,
Outcast.
Survivor
That
Fallen
Fallen Order.
Yeah, like those did really, really well.
Yeah.
And they're a reason that a lot of other ones that got greenlit. At the same time, remember was multiple Star Wars projects tied to major talents in the industry that got canned before they were even released. Oh shoot, I can't remember her name off the top of my head. One of the big names in the industry. I will remember this afterwards. Anyway, Jade Raymond, maybe. Anyway,
Go ahead.
There was just the multiple Star Wars projects, major ones with major talent behind it that it got canned. So the fact that this one made it through, there's a lot of expectations on it, and marketing sold that game, and a lot of the reviews came out with it being, I won't say boring, but milk toast. Let's say that it just wasn't what they were sold on, and it was a lot of that like bait and switch kind of feel for people. I think it wasn't a bad game. It just did not get anywhere near the sales figures they needed it to be, a game that was worthwhile or made money for them. So, like you said, it's a flop. Like monetarily,
Yeah.
it's not a bad game, but it's not what people expected. So it did not sell well.
I mean, I guess what's the expectation? Like, because the character wasn't a Jedi or what?
No, I don't think so. I think when you looked at that game when it first came out, at least in my experience, I'm just speaking from my own personal.
I haven't played it, so I can't really say much about it.
It kind of reminded me of what we were sold on with Star Wars 1313. With 1313, you were sold on going into the depths of Coruscant to be a bounty hunter in the seediest, darkest part of the central part of the universe, right? You were supposed to have this like in-depth life, or this very like, what's the word I'm looking for? I really felt like you were immersed in that world. In Outlaws, you were kind of being immersed in that like outlaw Han Solo, like skin in your teeth kind of lifestyle. When you got into it, it was tons of like stealth that wasn't done very well. So the pacing was slow. The writing was a little, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. The world wasn't as pretty as you were hoping. It was just like the pace and everything didn't live that immersion of the story you were told in the marketing. So the marketing was great. Like you said, they put a lot of money behind it. I thought I was going to be this rascal, like barely surviving, trying to make ends meet, and like get this really cool story about me and my crew. And it just didn't really translate to that in the final product.
Okay, interesting comment here in chat. Jago said Ubisoft is in the Crapcom era without a parachute. So, I mean, they had some opposite of what a banger is before this year. So, but they're a big company now than they used to be. So there's probably a lot of discussion that need to be over there and see what's happening with them.
I wouldn't even say that's the problem. I think it's the problem that Ubisoft is just making Ubisoft games. There's not a innovation, at least innovation done on a scale that needs to move that needle forward. It's like little things like Far Cry 5 to Far Cry 6. It's like we changed one or two things. It's like, okay, but it's still the same thing. AC to AC. It's like, okay, we changed the setting, but it's still going to each individual like marker on the map to collect 20 different things.
I'm also like reading that the talent isn't as good as they were before, because apparently like people that used to be like senior developers on these projects, they're now like moved on to other things, and like these like junior developers with no experience are working on these AAA titles as a senior level. So a lot of like the quality assurance stuff is kind of like iffy. And I think that's because, which is weird because you hire a bunch of people, you think you would be hiring, a lot of good people, right? But I don't know if that's true or not, but that's
like to be completely honest, it's a problem in the industry across the board. It's not just an Ubisoft thing.
I'm feeling that's like,
right.
I feel like a lot of the baton has been passed because they have moved on to other things, right? And the expectation is big because the next game needs to be better than the last game. But if that guy that made that game isn't there anymore, that this new guy has a lot of big shoes to fill.
Or in some cases, you'll hear horror stories from dev teams and project managers, especially. The only reason I mention that is because I'm kind of connected to a few. It's some stuff that I was looking to like learn myself, so I was like trying to connect with those people and learn a little bit more about the role. One thing you'll start hearing about pretty often is even with those people at the top, the talent that's there, like the art director or the writer, the lead writer that's there. It's a good example at BioWare.
Yeah.
Lead writer, but the story still turns out the way it turns out, then they leave, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a problem with the company as a whole. So we talked about it multiple times before on our podcast, but with the spiraling, exceedingly high cost of game dev, they're bringing in junior talent that should have much more experience or much larger tool sets. So they're being paid as a junior, but being asked to do a lot more. And that's not their fault. It's just the companies are looking to cost cut where they can. And with AI coming in and potentially automating some of that stuff, who knows what we're going to get in the future? Again, it's going to be people coming in that maybe don't have the experience to be there, but they're being paid that entry level. So the game is still going to be pushed forward. It's just not the investing that needs to happen. But again, that's a whole nother conversation. Like, what is worth investing? Is the cost of game dev too high? Like, it is.
Yeah.
But where's the give or take? Like, what can we do, kind of thing?
Yeah. Well,
and in the end, they make a choice.
Yeah, and the fact that there's like smaller games that are like just way more fun to play and they have less of a quarter of a budget than these AAA titles, and they're succeeding to their level of success. I feel like I said, these established companies have lost its way, right? Or maybe like you said, the expectation of the gamers for those companies need to be X amount, and they're having a hard time filling those shoes when people, veterans in the industry, are shifting.
Yeah,
so
I mean, it's very real for me because Ace and I talked about this before, but I am a huge fan of BioWare. It's not BioWare as I know it anymore. It hasn't been for a while, and especially with playing like Veilguard, and even watching like previous BioWare devs play Veilguard and give their impressions of just like it's them really trying to get past the anxiety of being a BioWare game, and that's a really big insight into like they can't own it anymore. It's not the same company, and our expectations on that are what's causing this like rift between the two. It's interesting.
All right. Man, jam-packed episode. We still got a few things to go through here, but real quick, guys, I don't want to put too much time into it, but what are you guys currently starting to play in 2025?
Well,
switch it over to here.
The OG Dynasty Warriors for starters.
Yeah. Give us a rundown for those that don't know too much about DW1.
So, well, it's certainly not what's on the screen right now.
No, I know. Switching it.
But like the OG Dynasty Warriors again was it was previously a weapons-based fighter. It was Koei Tecmo, still around there, Dead or Alive, in particular the original, the first game, but it was still Koei Tecmo trying to do their thing when it came to fighting games. And with the original Dynasty Warriors, it was them once again tossing their hat in the ring as far as creating a weapon-based fighter to try and compete with, games like Tekken and Soul Blade. But with the original Dynasty Warriors, again, there was such a unique sort of emphasis on, the clash, the actual clashes, not just between certain specific generals, but, again, just like, clashing characters, clashing weapons. It was really there was a real emphasis on, going head to head. And even how the Musou attacks were developed, how the Musou attacks were implemented, you could still actually go head to head with two characters using those same attacks, and you would get that sort of stalemate. So you had to, you get into a mindset where you really got to start thinking, again, of which attack will either go around, intercept, or just outright defeat the incoming offense from the other player.
For those that don't know, DW1 is a fighting game, but the rest of the Dynasty Warriors game is a beat 'em up. And so that's why if you're new here, right, like, and you don't know anything about Dynasty Warriors, like the first game is totally different than the rest of the series.
Yeah, it really is. It's wild to think about how again how you have a series that starts off like in an entirely different genre from where the rest of it wound up going.
We got a lot of interesting chats coming here from Jagos, but the one that really stood out to me, because he sometimes jump on my personal stream and say that, hey man, I don't really look forward to playing Cobra Kai anymore. But he said reviewing that game is only going to make me focus on Game Mill as a publisher and their failures in that regard. First of all, their name is Game Mill, not exactly the best name for a development studio.
Not really, no.
Yeah, but the quality of games that they've been producing, which I've been buying, by the way, because I have Karate Kid Street Rumble and I play that now, is that they're definitely a AA team, and so far from my experience, they're taking 80s games and making them playable in 2024 and 2025. So maybe they don't have a big budget, but for the level of game that I'm getting, I'm not paying full price for these games. First of all, the game shouldn't be $40. They should be like 20 or less, right? But I think that's the big thing. If they make a game that's $40 at that level, it's too much. But if this game was $20, I think it would be more accepted in the gaming community.
So Game Mill should basically be calling themselves shovelware.
I mean, it's not, to me, it's like, it's not shovelware, and I don't know if they're talented enough to kind of like push like a really good beat 'em up, like something, because there's a lot of beat 'em ups out there on Steam, right? But like there's always something missing in the games. I also played the G.I. Joe game that they made, right? And I felt like that game was pretty good, but there was also something, the feel of the game felt like stiff. Like there was maybe
so you're saying that they're basically LJN.
Yeah,
They're
there's
just
like
licensed game fodder kind of stuff.
Basically their Q&A or their quality assurance is AI. Like there's nobody there but like a mannequin, right? So it's because it's like you can tell like this could have been a good game if they polished it more, but they don't have that money or something. They ran out of money. So, but yeah, Nick, you said you're playing Metaphor instead of Baldur's Gate because of time limitations.
It keeps spiraling out of control. I just started Metaphor after the new year, so it is my new game for 2025. Picked it up on sale, but I couldn't get around to playing it during the holidays, so I've put in only about 15 hours so far. So I've only been playing a couple days where I can. Have been able to really sit down this weekend. I'm hoping to. And I mentioned earlier, I love Persona 5, so this is right up my alley. I'm enjoying it so far. I can see why it's getting a lot of accolades even from the early game.
Yeah, and so here's the thing: you have two RPGs that you're playing right now, and both are like RPGs of the year. Are they? Do you think like they're two different RPGs on their own right, or is one better than the other? Like
in their own right, absolutely. I mean, we were having a conversation before about like how it was difficult to compare Baldur's Gate to Dragon Age. This is even more so than that. Like it's hard to say if you haven't played the series, but the best way I can say it is Baldur's Gate 3 is like Dungeons and Dragons, and Metaphor is turn-based JRPG. Like they're just that disparate. Like, and you've done it yourself where you've played those kind of RPGs.
Yeah.
They're very different from one RPG to the next, even within the like RPG genre. There's those branching kind of things. So they are very, very different. And it's very easy to go back between the two. Because I'll be honest, Baldur's Gate 3 didn't interest me out of the gate. I am not a big fan of like the D&D style. It's a little too slow paced for me. It's not what I'm looking for. It takes a lot of in-depth kind of thing. But then I started playing it, fell in love with the story and the characters and the writing. And it's like that's what pulled me into the Baldur's Gate world. And the combat is kind of like something I begrudgingly learn kind of thing.
Okay.
Metaphor is a lot more of like the games I like to play as
the
of like,
classic JRPGs.
yeah, like turn-based. There's some
Yeah.
strategy to it because I play a lot of RTS games. There's weaknesses and builds and stuff you can find. The thing about Metaphor, to me, it's the same as Persona 5. It's a little overwhelming because you know there's a ton of stuff that you're missing. There's a lot of depth to the systems. There's things hidden in the games that you will only find if you go to this one place on this one day and do these things the right way to get this thing. That's why New Game Plus in those games is like necessary. But it's the style, the music, the voice acting, the even the UI elements are just so stylized. I love the style of Metaphor.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like a game that stands out like visually. So I always find it to be like, oh, this is a really cool game. There's like money was put into this game and love and attention, right? Like I definitely like agree with you on that.
More so, it had a vision. It had a vision from the get-go. You can see that, like I said, the style of the UI, the menu options, like it had a style vision, and they friggin' stuck to it.
Yeah. Well, nothing crazy on my end. I'm just playing the letter A in my A to Z gaming challenge. I started with Aliens Dark Descent. Playing that right now. I played it on stream a little bit not too long ago, and man, I had the wrong impression about this game because I thought it was a generic like Baldur's Gate like, you know, combat system where, you know, you take your squad and you put them through the map, you do your mission. Boy, I was wrong. The game is definitely squad focused. I'd say if Baldur's Gate and XCOM had a baby, it would be Aliens Dark Descent. The reason for that is because it isn't turn-based, it's real time. And what you're going for here is squad structure, right? Do you have a balanced squad that can make it through the stage to accomplish your objectives? Now, the game is extremely difficult. The longer you linger in a stage, the more difficult it becomes because the hive gets more aware of your presence. So more aliens show up. This game is creepy for an RTS shooter. I am at the edge of my seat, even though it's not a first-person shooter. They captured the essence of Aliens, get dark, gloomy, and they're dangerous. Like no, and there are some epic scenes, and I'll hope to capture them soon. But this is one of those games where if you've never played it, you would probably have a different impression of it as if you did play it. Thank you for the PlayStation Plus for making this free, because I probably would not have put time and effort to paying for this game and playing it. But the fact that it was free, I gave it a chance to kind of jump on. So, and this is why I think demos are important. I don't think there was a demo of this, and since there wasn't, I never really gave it a shot. But man, I am so happy that I did. I'm having such a great time with it. It's very difficult, and for an Aliens-based game, it should be difficult. These bastards are not an easy opponent to fight. So yeah, that's what I'm playing. And the next one up on B is Batman, so the Telltale game, because I've never played that. But for now, I think I'm like at 74% on Aliens, so I'm almost done with that. So it was not a bad choice for my now playing. All right, so I know we're a little bit over here, so I want to cover what's left, and that's, of course, what's the deal, just because, see, look, this is on the wrong slide again. And I don't even think this is the right one. I don't know what happened here. I might have to upload this. Yeah, this is the old one. Yeah, I don't know, Restream just, like, completely, like, just threw away all my work from last time, so... It's going to be uploaded here. Yeah, this is definitely it. It's uploading. Okay, cool. All right, you guys know it. This is the time where we kind of show you all the deals that are happening right now on the internet just for you. We want to add added value to the show. So if you're a collector, and we talked about collecting earlier, we want to make sure that you're getting the most out of your dollar, stretching it as much as possible. So Dudley, take it away. All right. All right, so the first thing on our list here is going to be this Atari Game Station Pro video game console for $59.90 on Amazon Prime. So if you want to own a modern day retro Atari system, yes, I said that, a modern day retro Atari system. This is not one of those weirdo cheap ones. This is actually a really good quality. This was actually sold via GameStop exclusively, I think, but then it got eventually got ported over to Amazon, and the other stores had it as well. Let me know if this music's too loud too. Is it too loud, guys?
Oh no, it's
okay. You guys can hear it? Okay, awesome. All right. Next one, and there's not a lot of sales after the holidays because they focused on selling all those things in the fourth quarter before the holidays. But Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD on the PlayStation is only $10 on Amazon. So if you like Super Monkey Ball, you can own a physical copy for $10, and I think that's even cheaper than if you bought it on PSN. So keep that in mind. If you're a fan of JRPGs, and we've been talking about it all night, the Legend of Heroes series is an awesome series to get into. Trails Through Daybreak. The deluxe edition is $41.99, not full price on the Switch, unfortunately, only. So via Amazon Prime eligible. Also, it's available at Best Buy for the same price. So it sounds like they have a permanent price reduction for Tales of Daybreak or Trails of Daybreak. Speaking of shock games, and I know earlier you were like, hey, BioShock. And I realized that I made a System Shock game available for What's the Deal. It's physical copy. It is the remake of the original System Shock game on the PS5 for $19.99 via Amazon. It's just the same price as when I picked up Sunset Riders from Babbage's on that bin back when I was 11 years old. Now, if you're a fan of Dead Island and the ever illustrious Dead Island 2, when we were trying to figure out when it was going to come out, well, it's finally out now and not in full price. You can get it on the PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series S, I believe, for $17.97 via Walmart. So less than $20, you can be playing Dead Island 2. And I heard it was actually a pretty good game. Next, we have something a little bit offbeat with Goat Simulator 3 for the Switch for $19.99 via Amazon or GameStop. I played the first one and I had a blast playing it because it is what they call a video game-ass video game. And if you like those types of games too, Goat Simulator 3 will not disappoint you. And that's pretty much it for the games minus Forspoken, which is, I wanted to sneak that in there because I feel like this is a very underrated game for what kind of game that you get. Only $14.50 via Amazon. I mean, this was originally a $70 game, I think. And to get a physical copy of it and play like a unique game, I don't think this game was out on the Xbox at all. So pick it up and while it's cheap and add it to your collection. And it plays to me like an open, not an open world version because they're open world. This is like if, what was that game, guys, on the Sony PlayStation? That was like you're the superhero and you get powers. Infamous. Yeah, this gave me Infamous vibes, just with a different like world, right, and a different character. But it plays very similar to Infamous, if not better.
I almost said Prototype.
Hey man, don't bring that game up. I love that game. I miss that game. And the fact that the character from the first game was the villain in the second game, I thought that was a really cool addition to that series as well. I think Activision owns Prototype. Well, I'll never see that game come out ever again. Activision's too engrossed in Call of Duty. So, but yes, man, I mean, we missed out on a lot of news this time, guys, because, our time is limited. Of course, we have a busy schedule, but we'll save that all for next week. It's going to be a busy news cycle for next week, but we did it. 2025 is upon us. I got good plans for the stream, for the Academy. I'm working on a few things. I spent a couple hours talking with Wix about getting a website put up for Academy and domains and all that stuff that's boring, but I got to get it done. Finalizing a logo right now, so next thing you'll see us, we'll probably having logos on our hats, or polos, whatever the student faculty would appreciate. So we'll throw it out there. Yeah, honestly, one of the goals is for me to have a student store for people to access, because I've been getting messages about merch. So, and I'm like, I feel bad because people want to wear stuff from the Academy, and I'm like, I don't have anything for you. Sorry.
Yeah, I would definitely be up for rocking a Gaming Academy baseball cap.
Yeah, no, I'm totally in for that. It's things are in motion. Like I said, one of the goals that I had for this year was to create a forum. We're bringing forums back, back in the day, and I want the and faculty to kind of talk with each other. But I think that's what Discord's for. But there's going to be some rearrangement and more organization based on that. And tell your friends, tell people that you have very similar interests with you to join us. We want to grow this year. Right. We want to make sure we're sharing our info and our love for video games with other people outside our community. And we need your help for that. So I've been telling everybody at work. I've been telling everybody that, that I come across in the gaming world, like, hey, check out the podcast. Sometimes they don't have time because we're on a weird schedule. Mm-hmm. But I have VODs put up every day, or usually 2 days after going live. The big thing that I'm pushing for this year is more reels. And I looked at the analytics for that. Like, for example, like our podcast would get like 25 views, then our reels would get like 2,000. Yeah. So, and I'm getting a lot of comments too on the reels, like, or on the video saying, hey, your reels brought me to this video. So if that's what the public is seeing and that's what YouTube is pushing, I'm going to do it. We're going to go all in. So, that is my resolution for the Academy.
It's like you said. Demos are important.
Yeah.
Deals are pretty much, drop in, drop out. They're effectively demos for the podcast.
It'd be great if what you could do is like one of the giveaways as like a anniversary or like a certain subscriber amount is we do up a mock-up and it's like an old like demo disc jewel case.
Oh, that would be so dope.
Of
that'd
the
podcast.
That'd
be sick.
What have you done? What have you done?
I told you, man, we've gone through this before. I work in marketing. Like I'm already like demo disc.
Yeah. No, that'd be super fun. Super cool. Yeah, but things are in motion. We're listening, and I'm open to growing like the podcast, like I said. Even using my own and honestly, I think the big thing that you guys will notice is the Academy will probably be its own channel pretty soon versus a section of my personal YouTube channel. So it will be better organized and better focused. One of the things, I don't know if you guys know this, is that YouTube likes it when a channel is specifically for something, right? But if it's too varied, it doesn't know how to categorize it, and it does a bad job of displaying it to searchables. So we're gonna work around that, and we're gonna make sure that the people that you love here, the community that you grow up with, gets bigger and bigger, and we need your help for that. If need be, share, smash that like button, subscribe, get us out there, etc. But and then and in turn we'll make the stream only better for you. Academy, the Academy will only get larger and larger, and our roster will increase. So, and if you guys have what do you call this? If you guys have any ideas or you want to jump on, let us know. Send us a DM, and we'll definitely pop you in if you got something important to say.
Yeah, we've had Blue on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, and we got projects in the background, but I want to keep them as a surprise for you guys. So this way, one day you'll wake up Saturday morning or Sunday morning and be like, oh, cool, a gaming kind of video, So we'll leave that to that. But otherwise, I don't want to say any last words for 2025. We just got here, but any first words coming up for 2025 for our audience and students?
Well, if you want some extra credit, then make sure to stop by my stream on Friday if you're looking to check out Freedom Wars Remastered. We're definitely going to be going ham on that at the very least for this weekend to help pass the time between here and Dynasty Warriors Origins. But again, it's a game that I didn't get the chance to play back when it first released, so I'm really looking forward to picking up the remaster and just having fun and giving folks my raw first impressions of the game.
And I'll probably join you on that because I'm a huge fan of Freedom Wars, and I'm glad it's coming back. So, I have no problem being your co-prisoner. If you guys don't know what that game's about, So yeah. What about you, Nick? Anything for you?
No, nothing for me. I'll just see you next week.
Yeah, and like I said, I have a fun project that I got these two guys involved in, and we'll get that sorted out. And once that's done, I think you guys will love it, and we'd love it for you to love it as well. So, other than that, that's the first session of the Gaming Academy. Congratulations, guys, we did it. Awesome. But,
Yo, check this out.
yeah, so yeah, that's oh yeah, that's the other thing that I missed out on, but we'll cover that next time. But I wanted to show, like, I kind of want to talk about the Virtua Fighter thing that I saw today. Big fighting game fan, right? And if you guys haven't seen it, like, maybe somebody could, put a link on that NVIDIA.
It's in our Yo Check This Out section.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me.
Yeah, go and paste that on the chat.
In the chat.
And man, if that is the future of fighting games, sign me up.
So I will caveat with that. That is mocapped, so it's not in game, but still is like a concept.
It is it's pretty much a demo. It even says non gameplay on it. And then they also have another trailer where they show two guys playing the actual game on like the pre build, right? Which is gonna look more like Virtua Fighter. But their ability to do as such is what I'm kind of getting at, is that if they could make machinima videos look like that, I'm in. Like, especially if, can you imagine if the next step in video game fighting games is that you now can record your own fight scenes? That'd be sick.
It
right?
just reminds me of Nick Arcade when we were kids.
Yeah,
wanting to be in the video game. Just
you are the
those
game
kind
now.
of things. You can go to like gaming centers and you can like stand in the camera and like look at the monitor and pretend you were in the game. It's when we played Rainbow Six Vegas and we used a little like shitty Xbox 360 like white camera to like capture your face. You could put your face in the game like stretched across.
Yeah,
like,
those were cool. It's those small details, man, and I feel like they're kind of like gimmicky, of course, but it's the attempt, and like and the fact that like we're talking about it right now, even though it was not that great, that they were memorable as well, because that was just one way for you to kind of immerse yourself in a video game. So looking forward to 2025, guys. Appreciate you guys so much.
Thank you.
But yeah, other than that's it for me. How about you guys?
See y'all next time. Class
All right.
dismissed.
Adios, muchachos. Oh.